Well,
St.
there's
Petersburg.
it. I mean, there is going to be so much that has to be answered. And we're going to answer something for you right now to explain how we're going to look at this. I mean, everybody says we're going to be breaking records throughout the year with this new package. It's, up about 25% downforce. Well, the pole sitter here last year was Takuma Sato. The time was a 104.738. The track record here, though, set back in 03, different configuration on the cars. When you think about it, the cars this week are different than Sato drove last year. So the track record is a 100.928. And that's what we're going with, kind of the generic open wheel, even though you're seeing different formulas and throughout the season and sometimes entirely different racetracks as well. So we're going to use that as the standard. The cars have actually taken out, most of them have completed their first lap and are right back into the pits, of course, to make sure everything is okay. Mark, let's talk about the aero packages. The Chevrolet is entirely different. With the sense of humor that race drivers have, the Chevrolet has like a little winglet that is up, raised up over the front wings, the front canards, and it's flat. It's unusual looking, and so the mechanics are now saying they have a place to put their tools. So their humor goes right on through with that. But they are different. In some testing, maybe there is maybe a half a second, maybe a second off to Chevrolet. Honda still has to make up. But then the other thing, you talk all these sessions, you have no idea what they're doing with the engines during those sessions either.
Sure. That's a very good point, Paul. All of this dates back a couple of years to when this process first began. And I think not only was it to create some competition between the teams and get away from, let's face it, what essentially was a spec series and start to maybe introduce some creativity and some engineering back into the series. Not to say that it didn't exist with a previous configuration. It's just that they can paint a little broader stroke now, let's be honest. But I think also it's important for the manufacturers, don't you, that there is now brand identity between those two cars. That's huge.
Exactly. I mean, you can look at them, know exactly what they are, and that they are different. I mean, there's a lot to be said for the package, and it seems like IndyCar really came through. I mean, they worked hard to get the package out. Did it come out a little late? Yeah, just a bit. But everybody got the thing together. I watched one of the Hondas being assembled, and it was amazing to me. Normally you put something together, even a model at home, and you got to do a little shaving and cutting. These things just fit right together for the most part perfectly. They're engineered well.
And aesthetically, they're incredibly pleasing. I mean, there are some radical changes to the configuration of these race cars in their look. And I think the overwhelming concern, though, Paul, we've all joked about the potential durability and the fact if one of these cars get into a tire barrier, pieces and parts could be flying off. Hamaltro safety crew could take much longer to clean up this idea. The biggest concern that we want to see go away this weekend is the fact that the previous package was ultra competitive, especially on the road and street courses, and we don't want to see anything happen to that competitive nature. Now let me further that by saying, if one team is decidedly ahead of another, one manufacturer is decidedly ahead of another. Derek Walker said a couple of weeks ago in a meeting at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with all the employees of IndyCar and IMS that wanted to be a part of it, that certainly there are provisions made in the rule book to keep that balance.
Yeah, the old hip pocket rule book.
From one
in the
right
best
pencil or
of the
with an
sport.
eraser or however you want to say it. Those provisions are in place because it is essentially about competition and they want a level playing field if possible.
What we've seen in testing on road courses with the new aero package, and of course now testing is done because we're here at a race.
Right.
We yet to see how the aero package will be on the high-speed ovals, especially Indianapolis, and that's where you may see a greater distinction. They don't quite have a handle on that, but obviously everything that they've said is we're working with the teams, we're working with everybody, we're going to make this package work, and I don't see a problem with it at all yet. I hope I don't see such a thing.
Interesting to me now that
cool.
The focus might change, Paul, from the concern about the difference in fuel mileage, especially on the ovals. Because let's face it, fuel mileage came into play on ovals between Chevy and Honda, and now the focus is going to be on the aero kits instead of that fuel mileage.
And, of course, shortly we're going to see them go side by side for the first time. There's one thing when it's a test, another thing entirely when you start running side by side. Let's go pit side because Jake Query is on board with us.
you guys were talking about the aero kits, and this is interesting because, of course, with the two engine manufacturers, Chevrolet and Honda, you have different aero kits. Joining me here on pit road, he is the program manager for development for the Verizon IndyCar Series, and he is Chris Barabee with Chevrolet. Chris, let's talk about these aero kits. First and foremost, from the very beginning, when you knew that this was going to be a possibility, take me through, if you will, the genesis, the brainstorm of how from the very beginning you came up with the idea and the development of the aero kit itself for Chevrolet.
Well, for Chevrolet, one of the reasons we came back to IndyCar was certainly the engine formula, but in addition to that, we always included the opportunity to do aero kits as part of what we wanted to come back to IndyCar for. So it all starts out with, the concept of doing it. It's about people, processes, and parts, and you need to have a baseline that you start from. You need to gather the right team of people, and you need to create your targets from there. And then it's a very iterative process aerodynamically to generate these solutions. And the science and the art of it is the balance of drag and downforce. And then across the wide variety of racetracks that IndyCar competes on, the scope of the kit is actually quite wide. So another thing to point out is that within the rules boxes, IndyCar provided quite a bit of freedom for us to do many things, which is why the visual differentiation is what it is.
From the time of the actual concept to the time the aero kit was finalized, how many different steps of wind tunnel testing was there? How many, once you looked at something, let's say on a computer, and then said, okay, this is something that is a possibility. What was the process between the computer to actually being on the car here?
Yeah, certainly. It's, as I said, it's very iterative. You generate your ideas in computer-aided design or CAD. You test them in the electronic world, if you will, first, using CFD and finite element analysis. You ultimately then produce parts that you can test in a wind tunnel, either scale or at full scale. And throughout this whole process, it's very important to have correlation. We always make sure we can correlate back to the previous step and ultimately validating on the track to get that closed loop correlation.
We're talking with Chris Barabee of Chevrolet here about the Chevrolet aero kits. Okay, the kits themselves, how many different pieces does a team have? What is the rule specification in terms of over the course of a weekend? A lot of people have asked this. Can you vary the kit over the course of the weekend? Does everybody have to use the same kit for a Chevrolet team? What is the protocol there?
Well, we certainly homologated more parts in the kit than are needed at every circuit. So again, given that degree of freedom from IndyCar, we look at every circuit as a unique set of challenges, and we recommend to the teams what the starting point is. It's up to them to integrate and balance with their mechanical setups from there. So yes, they have options. We have a recommended setup, and that's how we proceed.
Now, I should preface this by saying I needed a tutor in both physics and geometry my entire academic career. But when you were building an aero kit, as Chevrolet is developing the aero kit to go with these DW12 Dallara chassis, was the speed found in creating more downforce that allowed the car to kind of stick to the ground and give the driver that security, or is the speed formed in an aerodynamic wind bounce off of the car, or is it both?
It's always that balance. With downforce comes drag, and if you focus completely on drag, you lose grip. So that's why I said that's the art of it and the science of it at the same time, and that's what we focused on, is finding that optimal balance, but also finding that optimal balance with the engine performance. We did an integrated approach where we always made sure that we weren't hurting engine performance and that we were actually helping engine performance where we could.
You've seen these aero kits for Chevrolet become a reality now. You've seen them on track. You've seen them tested. You've talked to the teams. What is the initial feedback, both from an aesthetic standpoint and also from a performance standpoint?
Well, from a performance standpoint, they're generally pleased that we've provided them a solution that works. It's integrated. It does what we said it would do. From an appearance standpoint, it's form follows function in this case, and our our solution will look great in victory lane.
You know, when you go all the way back to Louis Chevrolet, Gaston Chevrolet, winning in Indianapolis, obviously Chevrolet has always been at the forefront of racing technology and getting up front. Certainly these aero kits from Chevrolet's standpoint, I know fans are excited about it, so too are the drivers. Chris Bearby, I appreciate the time and the explanation and wish you the best of luck with Chevrolet with these aero kits in 2015.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to be here and anxious to see how it goes.
He is, of course, again with Chevrolet with the aero kits, the program manager for racing development for the Verizon IndyCar Series, Chris Bearby.
Well, and Jake, you got a lot of good information out of him. That was, I'm making notes here. That was good stuff. We are now beginning to see times coming in that are probably going to be representative as the speeds come up. For a while there, the Schmidt-Peterson team, James Hinchcliffe and James Jakes, were the top of the board. But then some of the true heavyweights came out, guys with a name like Power, the defending champion of this race and defending series champion. But right now, and this will probably be something that'll give us a really good idea of what they're going to do, Ryan Hunter-Reay's last time around was a 1:02.43, remembering that Sato's pole last year was a 1:04.738. So already we're seeing some of that product that we have expected to see, and it's getting pretty exciting. Graham Rahal had what looked like was an off but not an off, like he pulled to the side, and then he slowed down considerably, and now it looks like he's back up to speed.
This will be start number 129 in the career of Graham Rahal. And Paul, it's just so hard to believe that his one win came
Right
here
Yep.
in his very first start. Obviously, the expectation level is high enough on a kid like Graham Rahal with that famous last name, and his father a series champion and an Indy 500 champion, and
all that pressure.
The pressure that goes along with that. At the same time, I think Marco Andretti is kind of in the same boat. I mean, Marco made a big splash here in the Indy Lights a number of years ago, and I think because of that last name and what goes along with it, I think many expected Marco, including Marco himself, to have more than 2 wins at this point in his career. And in terms of career starts, the numbers getting gaudy for Marco as well. This will be start number 152 in his career.
Just reporting one of those machines in the runoff in turn 4, and that would be Ryan Hunter-Reay, that bright yellow color that's carried on the Indy Champions car, and apparently already right back into the action. Mark, let's look again. Kind of run down these times now because they're getting represented. The quickest at the moment is Joseph Newgarden, and his fast time is a 1:02.38, followed by Dixon, then Hunter-Reay, then Castroneves, and then Will Power, going down further.
I don't think it's out of the question that we could flirt with that record that you talked about a little bit. Sebastian Bourdais at just a couple of ticks over a minute. TK is 6th quick, Montoya at 03.03, and then Hinchcliffe, Simona back in the car. And welcome her back to the Verizon IndyCar Series. She is currently 9th quick, rookie Sage Karam, in the booth with us just 1 year ago for the light shows. An up-and-comer, no question, for Ganassi Racing is 10th quick. Then Munoz, Kimball, Huertas, Jakes, and another newcomer, Coletti, your top 15 here, Paul.
Yeah, we have, Coletti, Sage Karam, and, of course, Gabby Chavez, who you had some spectacular stats on. His number of podiums, his career to this point has been awesome.
Yeah, in 26 starts in his career in or in the Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tire, 21 podiums in 26 starts for Gabby Chavez. You go to the year before, or a couple of years before in Pro Mazda, 17 starts, 10 podiums. So that guy knows his way to victory lane in the top 3 spots on a podium.
One of the things we're going to be concerned with a little later in the day is for the second practice session, the possibility of rain. So what about the conditions right now? Dave First is pitside with us.
No, you didn't mention rain. Or we're not even half hour into the session here, Paul Page.
I apologize.
But yeah, there appears to be some dark clouds heading our way. I don't think it's going to affect this first practice session here this afternoon, but it's going to be something to keep an eye on perhaps later in the afternoon. Ambient temperature right now 80 degrees, track temperature 101. The wind is coming out of the west, so yeah, storms are definitely coming our way. But Paul Page is a guy that lives in the Midwest, the Indianapolis area, after a brutal winter. I'll take anything down here in St. Petersburg.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty happy to, even if it's got a little cloud, no problem. The temperature is great.
Now, some people tuck their tail between their legs when it gets cold and go to Florida for the winter, not mentioning any names.
Hey, you got the opportunity, go for it. That's the way I figure it. That's a dig at me. You think? And let's give you an idea, too, what's coming up later today so that you're in touch with the schedule. We still have a clean and green run all the way, and we are beginning to see a couple of cars go ahead and try passes, though generally that's been a superior car passing a slower car. We haven't seen anybody actually battle on the track yet, and if they're smart, I suggest that they may not do that for a while. IndyCar practice is on now. Indy Lights, that'll be at 3:30 this afternoon until 4, and of course Mark James, you'll have all that for us. And then back at 4:15 for the IndyCars. That's a practice session, 4:15 to 5:30, and that'll be Mark here in the booth with me, and Jake Query and Dave First will be in the pits. And by the way, as long as we're talking about our booth, we got some new deals going on right now. This is now officially the Firestone studio.
That's right.
Firestone has stepped up once again. You know, they help the series so much, and they help us. And here's another big one. This is huge. We are now the Advanced Auto Parts Radio Network. Yep. So a lot of things happening, not only for the Indy cars with the new aero kits and everything, but our radio network is having some success too, and that's neat.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this can pay huge dividends for all of us. Next time you stop by your neighborhood Advanced Auto Part, tell them how much you appreciate their sponsorship of the radio network. And there's got to be a Firestone in your neighborhood. Go to the website and check them out, and go see the good folks at Firestone as well, and let them know that you appreciate their undying support of open-wheel racing in the Verizon IndyCar Series. Paul, if you don't mind, let's talk about our defending series champion, Will Power. I mean, the guy has to be going into this season as relaxed and as confident as he has ever been in his career.
You're right. I saw him back in their paddock area, and he was laughing and you don't normally see him. He normally tucks himself away. And remember, too, this is right where he started his march to the championship.
Yeah, and, 3 consecutive seasons, he essentially threw away a chance to win a championship. And there were whispers in that paddock about what Roger's response would be if heaven forbid, he should do that again. He did not do that again. And I think maybe the heat was off a little bit down the stretch because he was battling primarily with his teammate at the time, Helio Castroneves, and people were wondering if he was going to finally win that much elusive championship. Turns out he did not. But, some of the numbers for Power in a relatively short amount of time. Paul, 139 starts for Will Power. He's won 24 races. He's been in the top 3 45 times. That's just an incredible success rate. And if a guy wants to carry over momentum from one season to the next, especially after winning a championship, here are Power's numbers here. In 7 starts, 4 poles, 6 top 5 starts. He has a couple of wins, and he has 6 top 10 finishes. He's led almost 170 laps here, so he knows he knows the fast way around the streets of St. Petersburg.
Yeah, at the moment, this place does belong to him. But how about the times and speeds that we're beginning to see now? Simon Pagenaud, who became the 4th car in the Penske organization this year, is now quickest. That's car number 22, and his quick time is a 1:02:35. That eclipses Newgarden, and the order right now is Pagenaud, Newgarden, Dixon, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Helio Castroneves, and then Charlie Kimball. That's your top 6. And now we're getting to that part in this practice session where more and more of the cars are heading to the pit side. They've got enough of a handle, enough information, I guess, that now they're going to try to look at what the changes can be, make sure they have the appropriate number of tires scrubbed for the rest of the weekend and everything. So this is a critical time in the decision-making process, especially if you consider the possibility they may not have another session today.
I just saw that Penske schemed the yellow number 22 of Pagenaud, who's gone to P1 at 102.88, and you're assessing things in the offseason. If you're Roger, Penske, and Tim Cindric, you think, okay, we finished 1st and 2nd of the points. We finished 4th of the points. How can we improve upon this race team? I know we'll go out and get the guy that finished 5th in points. 4 of the top 5 are under the Penske banner in the paddock. That is what you would call a juggernaut, Paul.
Well, that's not the only change at Penske, though.
Sure.
Your buddy, the Flash from Monrovia, goes away from Andretti, and Kyle Moyer is now running the Penske operation.
Yeah, that's a long association with Michael Andretti and going back to Andretti Green Racing, and then Barry Green before that for Kyle Boyer, and that kind of sent some ripples through the series when the announcement was made that Kyle was departing Michael Andretti's operation and landing at Penske, and that certainly could be a force to be reckoned with, because Kyle at times has really managed to pull one or two out of his hat in terms of race strategy to get a win. If you don't believe it, just ask Danica Patrick.
Exactly. The Verizon IndyCar Series is on track at St. Pete. The very first practice session, first time out for these new radically changed IndyCars with their new aero kits, and they are different. Chevrolet and Honda look so different. It helps. You're able to identify that. It also is apparently helping with speed. Castro Neves just goes number one. He does that with a 1:02.17, followed by Will Power, talking about the Penske juggernaut, a 1:02.32, and then Pagano is dropped now to third, 1:02.35.
3 wins and 9 starts for Elio. If it were baseball, that'd be more than enough to get him in the Hall of Fame. That's a pretty good winning percentage. He's got 7 top 10 finishes here. He's led over 207 laps. So Elio Castroneves, another one of those drivers that seems to find these streets to his liking. As you mentioned, Power and Castroneves atop the timing and scoring chart. Tony Kanaan, if we go down the grid a little bit further, we see him in that number 10 machine. He's 11th quick. Then Hinch, Ray Halls, we mentioned, with a win here to start his career. Jack Hawksworth piling the number 41 machine. Paul, that was good news in the offseason. A lot of positive news coming out of A.J. Foyt's operation. Not only during the season are they moving a portion of their racing operations to Main Street in Speedway, Indiana, they were able to finally expand to 2 cars and add Jack Hawksworth.
So this practice session for the Indy cars underway. Everything's been smooth so far. One of the things that there is a little concern about is there are now so many different pieces on both of the new aero kits. There is some concern about if somebody gets up against a wall, how severe that may be in terms of parts coming off. But again, IndyCar has acknowledged that. They know that that's possibilities out there, and they have planned for it as well.
Well, I don't think there's any question. Durability, I'm certain, was a part of that testing process, Paul. I think both Honda and Chevy put materials into that front wing assembly to see what sort of destruction might take place in the event that they get into a tire barrier or a wall. But it remains to be seen exactly how that process will play out. I'm sure we'll see that.
Well, with Will Power, number 1, a 1:01.99, so he breaks into the 1:01s. And we were talking about Kyle Moyer, and right now he's with Dave First.
Yeah, I joked the first time I saw Kyle Moyer in a Team Penske shirt. I said, Kyle, what are you with the right? No, new team. Obviously teamed up with Simon Pagano as well. How's it going so far, Kyle?
Going really good. I mean, winter testing's been great with this team. I mean, they welcomed me with arms, and the same thing, they welcomed open arms to Simon. So for him and me to come in here and be part of this whole program is pretty incredible. On top of that, you just look at the driver lineup, something special.
I was going to say, look at this lineup you have for Team Penske. Elio Castroneves, Juan Pablo Montoya, the champion in Will Power, and now you add a guy who's a pretty good shoe, too, and Simon Pagano.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what Roger does it one way and he does it the right way, and I spent 35 years beating my head trying to beat the guy. I figured maybe I'd take a vacation and win with him. So, it's been great so far in testing. I just hope it continues for racing.
There's an old saying, if you can't beat him, join him. Now, I know you beat him a few times at Andretti, but it's going to be nice to be a part of this organization now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Roger's the cream of the crop in IndyCar, always has been, always will be. And, first time I heard him on the radio talking to me was something special.
All right, so bottom line, what are you guys working on here this afternoon?
We tested a couple of days ago at Sebring. Everything went right. We're just sort of setting right heights and everything. The track's going to grip up a lot more, but the rain's coming. So, today's just a matter of getting everybody into the groove for the first day.
Let's be honest, with this rain coming, we don't know how that's going to affect the second practice session. So this practice session becomes all the more important, doesn't it?
Well, again, we tested pretty good, so I think it's just a matter of learning the track. I think we're right where we want. If it rains, that's what it is. We're going to have to qualify good, and that's the secret tomorrow.
How have the design, obviously the debut of these new aero kits, how has that changed how you operate as a race strategist or as a team operates for that matter?
I don't think it changes it much. I think the biggest thing is it's just wearing drivers out quicker because they're having to work harder. So, that's what they get paid for, so it's kind of fun to see.
I've never heard a driver whine before in my life, so I don't know what you're talking about.
No, they're all good guys, and they never whine.
All right, Simon Pagenaud back here on pit lane. I'll let you go back to work, Kyle.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, Kyle Moore, race strategist down here for the 22 in Simon Pagenaud. To Jake Query.
Another guy who is new on the fruit stand for this season, if you will, and that is Scott Harner, who will be calling the races as a strategist for Sage Karam. Now, he's busy right now looking over all of Sage Karam's information and telemetry as it comes in. Just talked to Scott, and he said, right now, let me kind of get through everything. It's essentially his first day here. He has worked extensively, of course, with Chip Ganassi as that car right now, that number 8 machine, 15th quickest out here on this track. So they're trying to get Sage Karam, the young rookie, up to speed, if you will. Karam, of course, has experience in a car, but that was last year, pre-aero kits and on an oval in Indianapolis. So they had the manpower to go ahead, of course, and get that 4th car. This is nothing new for the Target Chip Ganassi team and for Chip Ganassi's guys. Now to have that 3rd car full-time with Sage Karam, we'll see how many more races it turns into. But Scott Harner, who typically was on the headsets and in the ear of either Scott Dixon, Tony Kanaan over the course of the season, now he is down here on pit road, and he's going over all the information for that young driver, Sage Karam, who during the test had injured his wrist. We'll see if perhaps that's affecting the young kid out of Pennsylvania. But Sage Karam right now, 15th fastest.
And talking about the top 4 and the 4 cars in Penske Racing, Power, Castroneves, Montoya, Pagenaud, those are your top 4. That is Penske Racing. Power, the only one into the 101 element, but he did improve on it. He's now a 101.87. Practice continues here. We'll be back right after this.
If there's one thing Firestone's learned over its 100 years in racing, it's that if you don't keep moving forward, you're going to get left behind. So even though Firestone has more Indy 500 wins than any other tire on the planet, we're always more concerned with what we've done for you lately. That's why we're constantly trying to make our tires stronger, last longer, and handle better than ever. And we bring that same commitment to every tire we make, whether it's for the racetrack or for the open road. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
And we welcome you back to St. Petersburg, Florida, where at the moment the sun is shining down on this temporary street circuit that IndyCar has carved out of this magnificent city. And we're watching a practice session underway with some concern that maybe the second session scheduled today might be interrupted by rain. But I've already talked to Mark. He's got an anti-rain dance that he's going to go out and do, and we think that may help us a little bit.
I don't think it will, Paul.
No, it
I just got a glimpse of the radar, and I wish I had better news. But I think we're going to get wet, so we're going to need, Paul, we're going to need you to pull all our cars up to the door for us before we leave so we don't get wet today.
Well, you're a driver. I mean, you've got the limo, but I've got the bicycle. Short straw this race.
Joseph Newgarden is currently 5th quick, Paul, and I have every reason to believe that this could be, and I hope I don't jinx him, this could be the breakout year for Joseph Newgarden. He flirted with the win, sometimes seeing it come unraveled at the end through things that were out of his control. Mid-Ohio comes to mind. I just think that now being a part of a full-fledged race team with teammates like Luca Filippi and Ed Carpenter, and the combination of Ed Carpenter's operation and Fisher Hartman Racing, I think all of the things are aligned despite the strength of the teams like Penske and Ganassi and certainly Andretti. I really think this could be a memorable season for Joseph Newgarden. At least see him get the first win of his career.
Remember a little bit earlier we mentioned that Ryan Hunter-Reay ran off course, turn 4, has done it again, but kept it under power, didn't touch anything, and he's back on the racetrack. Must be something about that corner he wants to learn.
Well, one thing's for sure about this race course, the runoff areas have some depth to them, and they're fairly forgiving. I mean, if you miss a turn here, chances are you have an opportunity to get it wound up and avoid tire barriers and walls and things of that nature. And your risk of damaging the race car, or losing multiple spots are a little less here than they are other places. This is a tremendous design that encompasses an airport runway and city streets, and obviously it's a picturesque setting. When I get the opportunity to go out in my perch in the shadows of the world-class Dolly Museum, Paul, I got to tell you, turn 10, which leads on to Dan Weldon Way here, is one of my favorite vantage points of any race that we work at any facility throughout the country.
That runoff by the 28 car of Ryan Hunter-Reay was a little more of a half spin than a runoff. He got it going right away, which is why he got back on course right away. You talk about Dan Weldon Way. He, of course, Indy 500 champion and lived in this city, and, of course, was killed driving an Indy car. And, I mean, we all remember him with such fondness. What a great guy, and it's good that there is an area here that continues to memorialize him.
His adopted hometown, if you will, in the United States is St. Petersburg, Florida, and the folks in St. Petersburg love him as much as he loved them. And Dave, first, you're down on pit road, and spent some time here in Florida a couple of days before we got here talking about the next generation of Weldon that's already starting to turn some heads in karting. Dave?
Obviously took a little break. Hey, they're entitled to that. They work hard down there. Yeah, he's got family that's coming through, absolutely. Power, Castroneves, Montoya, Pagenaud. That's the Penske team. They are the top four. Then Newgarden, who we all expect great things to happen for this guy. We were surprised that they didn't happen last year. I mean, he was so close so many times, but he's faster right now than Dixon and Ryan Hunter-Reay and Jack Hawksworth, who's now moved out of his rookie season, changed teams, and is beginning to make his presence known as well, driving with A.J. Foyt. And now Montoya in turn 4. He gets it off, gets it back on the track right away. It's a pretty open area, so if you lose it there, you do have a good chance of recovery. But it's funny that now every incident that we've seen, not really incident, just runoff, has been in turn 4.
Well, you got to wonder, Paul, if they understand the potential issues that we could have involving weather for that session later this afternoon. And maybe some of these guys are pressed a little bit, trying to get as much as they can out of this session, which may be the only one today under the dry. I would imagine that as we speak, Mr. Pagenaud is not real happy with the driver of the number 19 machine, Mr. Draconi, who's driving for Dale Coyne this season. It didn't look like that Draconi was playing nice with Pagenaud as they worked their way around the course.
Yeah, Pagenaud was right up on top of it, and then I think he just decided, prudence, I got to keep this car. It only needs the heavy work on Sunday, so he's backed off considerably. But there was a moment there when I thought, uh-oh, we might see our first bump.
First one, yeah.
Power, Castroneves, Montoya, Pagenaud. Only one driver, and that is Will Power, last year's winner here and the defending series champion, that's gotten into the 101 bracket. That's a 101.87. Castroneves' second quick is at a 102.17. So there's a bit of distinction between those two cars right there as well. We're seeing quite a difference.
Pagenaud, 69 starts to his credit, Paul. 4 wins and 1 pole. He was, of course, the 2014 GP of Indy winner. Just 5 DNFs in all of the starts that he has had. And Simon Pagenaud is a guy that a lot of race teams have been coveting for the last couple of years with what he has accomplished with Schmidt-Peterson. And let's face it, Team Penske, when they come knocking, very few people say, no, wait, thank you, but no.
Dave First finally completed his lunch and had a really good lunch, I understand, and he's back with us.
Well, Dave, we were talking a little bit about Dan Weldon and Dan Weldon Way. We mentioned that you had an opportunity to spend some time before we started the IndyCar series this weekend. You had an opportunity to see the next generation of Weldon that's already turning heads in karting.
Yeah, I tell you, it is truly the next generation, and quite a story. Little Sebastian Weldon, who we've literally seen kind of grow up around the IndyCar series, because Susie has the good fortune of coming to several races, including, of course, the Indianapolis 500, and we've seen Oliver, we've seen Sebastian kind of grow up. Sebastian is 6 years old. He is very much involved in karting. Of course, lives down here in the St. Petersburg area. In fact, he is already, guys, a race winner. In fact, a two-time race winner. They go over to a kart track in Ocala, Florida, and he's won 2 races. One race he's won by 8 seconds. The second race he won by 12 seconds. So, if the last name Weldon wasn't enough, he's got the goods as well. And he's only 6 years old. That's the crazy thing. But great to see Sebastian and Oliver and Susie. They're going to be here this weekend as well as they have for the past several years here at the St. Petersburg Grand Prix.
Paul Dave, of course, the sports director of the ABC affiliate, WRTV6 in Indianapolis, and a tireless supporter of open wheel racing, Indy Lights, and also the Verizon IndyCar Series. And a lot of the work that Dave does, folks will see his features coming up in the month of May. And we highly recommend, if you want to know what's going on at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, when you get to Indianapolis in the month of May, RTV6 in Indy is the place to do that. Dave, the bill is in the mail.
Yeah, well, unless I'm having lunch, then you apparently can't contact me.
Yeah, but look who he's working with. It's not him. He's got TK, Tony Kanaan.
That's right. That's right.
We have one of your best friends. I mean, he really likes you.
Yeah, we have a blast, too. So if you're in the Indianapolis area, you got to tune in WRTV. And we post a lot of that stuff, too, on our website at theindychannel.com. But you want to talk about support. I caught up here with Ryan Westman. He helps out with the folks at Alfie Motorsports, Alfie Heat Treating for the 14 and the 41 of A.J. Foyt Racing. Guy, I don't know if you realize this, A.J. Foyt Racing is celebrating 50 years now in IndyCar racing. ABC Supply Company is celebrating, I believe, 10 years now, and Alfie Motorsports as well. This is their 5th year. I know you guys always have a blast when you come to St. Petersburg.
Yeah, St. Petersburg is one of the best tracks, great people. I think they call it the world's fastest spring break party, and it's definitely that.
And it's warm, too. You can't beat that, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you are in Indiana and you're coming down here, it's definitely a good hiatus from the cold.
Tell us about Alfie Heat Treating, and tell us really about your relationship with A.J. Foyt Racing 5 years ago. How did it start?
Right, in 2011, we started with the 41 car. It was going to be driven by Bruno Junqueira, and it was all orange. And the people at Ford had called us to talk to us about potentially sponsoring that. We did. We came back in 2012. We came back in 2013. And then in 2014, we actually were the primary sponsor at the inaugural Grand Prix of Indianapolis, the 41 car driven by Martin Plowman.
Right, yeah.
And then us being back. You know, us being here 5 years, ABC 10, and AJ 50, it's really a testament to how these guys treat their sponsors. We keep coming back because they treat us like family, and, you know, we love it.
A lot of people may wonder, too, Alfie Heat Treating, what exactly do you guys do?
Yeah, so it's an acronym. AL stands for aluminum, and FE is iron. So we do aluminum and iron heat treating. So you can either heat up parts or cool them down to get the mechanical properties that the customer desires, whether that be hardening the part or softening the part for them.
Well, and an opportunity to hop on board, as you guys did with 5 years ago with A.J. Foyt Racing. You can't turn down a history, a legacy, and a successful team as well.
You know, Larry's done a fantastic job.
Larry Foyt, you're talking.
Yeah, Larry Foyt, and, you know, with us moving to a 2-car team this year, with Jack coming on board and Takuma coming back, just going to give us that much more data, which is going to help the engineers dial in the car, going to make us better in qualifying, and definitely going to get us to the top of the podium.
Great to have you on board and your continued support of IndyCar racing.
I appreciate it. I want to wish AJ Foyt to get well soon, and we can't wait to see you in May.
Yeah, AJ Foyt, that's right. Ryan Westman from Alfie Heat Treating. AJ, if you haven't heard, had some health issues over the offseason, but he's doing good. In fact, we expect to see him at a racetrack very soon, Paul Page.
Well, stay with us, Dave. One thing we do have to mention, you know, this is the time when we're all looking to see what the different colors are and learning how to spot the cars a quarter mile away. He needs to go talk to AJ because his 2 cars, Sage Karam and Takuma Sato, are identical.
They are
except
identical.
For the number. I'll give you maybe one of those spray cans of fluorescent and you can go out there and correct that. Dave, first, since you're such a good friend with TK, Tony Kanaan, you may want to go down and find out why he is 14th. I mean, he's down there in the 102.82. I mean, that's a lot of people are in the 102 range, but I expected TK higher. So if you can find anything out, that would be interesting.
Well, when he's 14th, maybe now is not the time to talk to Tony Kanaan. I'm just thinking.
No, you're brave. You're his best friend. Just lean right in there.
All right, I'm heading that way, Paul.
Just to put the period on the discussion about A.J. Foyt, it's been a pretty productive session for them, Paul. I mean, Hawksworth is in the 8th position, and Sato is currently running 9th, and I think that's more than respectable. Jay Query, you've caught up with Mike Hull from Chip Ganassi's operation.
Mike Hull has Scott Dixon here on pit road. Now, you've had testing. You've had a couple of minutes here on the track, so I expect you to know absolutely everything about where these aero kits stand. But kidding aside, what have you learned, if anything, Mike, that you guys didn't already perhaps know about these kits before this weekend?
Boy, Jake, that's a loaded question. We're just trying to get through some things here, obviously, before we think we're going to get wet. We think we're going to get wet probably within 15 or 20 minutes if everything goes to plan. So we're just kind of pounding along on getting ready for the next dry session.
If let's just say, for example, if we were to get rain here today and that's the only time this weekend, meaning maybe the wet is not applicable for this particular track, can you learn things even in the wet at this track that would translate to other tracks that we might see over the course of the year where you're going to have rain conditions?
Oh, certainly. Yeah, absolutely. But the greatest thing about what's going on today is we're getting to run Indy cars again, and that's the fun part of what we do.
Lastly, let me just ask you about the aero kit itself. I mean, I know fans saw it, and most of them were excited about it. But from your standpoint, from an engineering standpoint, the challenges or the unique things that it presents now for you in trying to dial in this 9 car?
Well, we stand with the fans on what you just said. It's fun to be running the aero kit, and we'll learn a lot all through the season. Let's face it, a lot of the races where we race are very similar to what we're doing here in St. Petersburg. So it's a big win-win for everybody.
I know for a lot of people, the off-season seems long. For you, I'm sure it's short because you got some wins under your belt already in the state of Florida, including a Rolex watch. Congratulations on that. Best of luck this weekend, Mike. Always a pleasure.
Great. Thanks a lot.
All right, Mike Hull again, who will be calling the race strategist for Scott Dixon, a veteran of this series. As a matter of fact, wearing one of those Indianapolis 500 winners rings as they sit and watch now. And we talked earlier with Chris Barabee about those Chevrolet aero kits. They take a look at them now here on this 9 car. The very front wing, as a matter of fact, just examining it, seeing exactly what sort of telemetry is coming back. I've got the impression, Paul, that a lot of these teams are going to keep close to the best, as they always do in racing, what they are learning or perhaps what they can figure out about these aero kits. And it may be 3 or 4 races into the season before they have a real firm hold perhaps on what works and what doesn't. But that's all part of the fun, of course, of the ingenuity that goes in to the aero kits, and that was the entire idea, to elevate that innovation necessary from one team to the next.
Jake, that's a really good observation because, we're looking at guys who you'd expect to be higher, Bourdais, Kanaan, Rahal, even down through Andretti, who is 23rd out of 24 right now, but you don't really know what they're doing. Part of these aero kits on the road courses, where they perform the best is apparently on the entry to corners. They've got the downforce. So you may be only working a couple of corners. It may not be showing your stuff at any given time. Somebody who has been, though, has been James Hinchcliffe, his beautiful black car driving for Schmidt-Peterson this year. He has been all over this racetrack and loose. He's had the back end really tracking a couple times. Now, he's been very quick in these cars with the new aero kits, but he's showing it off today. He's not up the charts as high as we'd like to see him, currently 12th with a 102.62, but a few minutes ago he was driving that car, and then he brought it into the pits, and I expect to back out shortly if he's not already out there.
It's amazing the different approaches that drivers take. I know a couple of years ago when Rubens Barrichello spent a year in the Verizon IndyCar Series, the team was really, really impressed about the fact that after an initial lap or two, Rubens would find a part of the racetrack that he felt like he was, maybe not up to speed in. and he would spend probably 20, 25 minutes of a session attacking that particular corner until he felt comfortable with it. Then he would check another one off his list and another, and then assemble all those pieces together for one final run at the end of a session. Some guys try to find a balance right away. Some look for that weak spot and focus on that.
I'm Paul Page with Mark Janes, and from the pits, Dave First, Jake Query. We're broadcasting from the Firestone studio on the Advance Auto Parts Radio Network, and we're so proud that they have stepped up even further and helped this network continue on with the great tradition that was established in the early 50s. We go back too. Power, still number one. Still at the same time, his quick time set much earlier was a 1:01.87. He's still there. But how about Felipe, who just jumps up into the second spot? He is a 1:02.15. This kid, we've commented on him a number of times before. He is really good, and he's especially good at figuring out a track quickly, and it looks like he's done it here once again.
Yeah, he has 4 starts under his belt this series, and some were a little surprised. Some expected maybe J.R. Hildebrand would have a shot in that number 20 machine. May expect to see J.R. maybe affiliated with his team once we get to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the month of May. But even though in his 4 starts he had a couple of DNFs and a 15th and a 16th, I think he still caught the eye and attention of a few folks. And I think he's tested pretty well, Paul. And it looks as though that the confidence that Ed had in Luca during the offseason and putting him in that seat is paying off, at least in this session. He's got some big shoes to fill because, let's face it, Mike Conway was a threat week in and week out in that car last year. We have a red flag.
And that's Coletti, the 4 cars, Stefan and Coletti. Yep. So that's going to bring out our first red flag, and we're going to find out what happened to that car. It's been up against the barrier, but it doesn't look like there's any serious damage. In fact, it's not right to say that it was up against the barrier. It's parked over to the side, but I don't see anything that is serious there. But it did bring out the red flag, and that'll give a chance for everybody else to take a breath and relax a little bit while they get that car in. One of the TV feeds is showing something that I always love because they do it especially with the new guys. There's a map of the race course inside the car. Now, that's not because they need that to find out if they're going to turn right or left next, but they need that when they're talking with their crew, and they refer to that to be able to say, well, here's where I'm having this problem or that problem.
Yep,
it looks like it's just a quick runoff, though, and turned it around, but he stopped the motor, so that's why they're going to have to bring him in. No contact there. So we're still, in terms of these cars running safely and not seeing any barriers, we've had a good, safe session up to now.
This should be a short red because he's in turn 10. Hamato safety crew is right there, and they'll tow him quickly back to pit road, and we'll get the session back underway.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too long until we're back underway, and we'll be back with you right after this.
If there's one thing Firestone's learned over its 100 years in racing, it's that if you don't keep moving forward, you're going to get left behind. So even though Firestone has more Indy 500 wins than any other tire on the planet, we're always more concerned with what we've done for you lately. That's why we're constantly trying to make our tires stronger, last longer, and handle better than ever. And we bring that same commitment to every tire we make, whether it's for the racetrack or for the open road. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
And we are back, St. Petersburg, Florida. The Verizon IndyCars on the track for the very first time, but quiet at the moment because we had a quick spin-off and killed the engine. So we're going to have to be red until they get that car towed in. Let's run down some of the order, though, while we have a break and an opportunity to do that. Quickest thus far is Willpower, a 1:01.87, followed by Felipe, a 1:02.15. Then Elio Castroneves, a 1:02.17. Montoya is a 1:02.30, so a bit of a gap there. Then Pagno, a 1:02.35. Joseph Newgarden, a 1:02.38. Seventh is Scott Dixon, a 1:02.40. Ryan Hunter-Ray is 8th, 1:02.43. Hawksworth is 9th, 1:02.52. And Takuma Sato has finally moved into play. Last year's pole sitter, Sato is a 1:02.55. And already the green flag is out. The cars are exiting the pits, and heading back on to what is a combination of an airport and a bunch of city streets and some connector sections as well. And as Mark James has pointed out, that it's also a lot of different surfaces that they're traveling over, and so Firestone tires have to be dead on, and the surface certainly figures into the mechanical traction, if not into what they're doing with the aero package as well. That's a challenge.
Yeah, I am going to be anxious. Of course, we always talk to the folks at Firestone during all of our Verizon IndyCar Series events, and anxious to get their thoughts and impressions, Paul. I would imagine that the communication had to be constant in the developmental stage and design and in the testing stage, because when you start talking about drag and downforce and affecting those things, no question it's going to affect the tires. But as has always been the case in all of the years that they have been with the series, Firestone engineers are more than up to the challenge, and we have every reason to believe that the folks from Firestone are going to provide the compounds needed to find a nice marriage with the new aero kits for both Honda and Chevrolet.
Well, what about the Ganassi team, who is not at the top and is always expected to be right there? What are they doing? What are they thinking about? Dave First has the boss.
Well, yeah, you got to go right to the boss, right, Paul Page? Great catch up with Chip Ganassi, who once again is fielding a 4-car team this season. Well, 4 for now anyway. We expect Sage Karen to be around the rest of the season, but great to be back in St. Pete. Hey, Chip.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, it's good to be here.
What are you guys working on right now? Obviously, you're here in the Tony Kanaan pit stand. What's Tony talking about?
We're actually working on making the car go faster. It's practice.
You're trying to make the car go faster?
Yes, that's what we usually do in practice. We're trying to make the car go faster.
Good to see you in good spirits at such an early time in the weekend.
Well, it's good to be here, Dave. I love the great questions we get, you know.
Only the best when it comes to the boss, Chip Ganassi. Hey, welcome back. Tell us about Sage Karen, bringing on Sage at least for this weekend. What can we expect further down the road?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're trying to piece that thing together for him throughout the season. You know, I hope we can do it. You know, I mean, we're right now we're just getting started with him, and you know, we got a long way to go yet. So nobody knows for sure, but we're waiting for some things to fall through the cracks, maybe.
Well, here's the thing about Sage. Arguably, he probably should have been the Indy 500 Rookie of the Year. This kid is a real stud, a real talent you got on your race team.
Yeah, we think he is. We think he has a talent, and we think he deserves a shot, and that's what we're here to do.
All right, so honestly, what's Kanaan saying in there?
I'm sorry?
What's Kanaan saying in the car?
Yeah, they're just talking about some different challenges they have right now, you know, trying to get it right. I think it's nothing more than the first race, first race getting comfortable, first session of the first weekend of the first race is really not.
Well, and there's a lot to work on with maybe rain coming here later this afternoon.
It certainly looks like it. Certainly looks like it's going to rain at some point, and we're just hoping to hurry up and get through this session completely dry. We'll be pretty happy.
All right, thanks for joining us. Did the questions get any better as the interview went along?
You're doing good, Dave. I'm going to keep working with you. I think you'll make it someday in this business.
And maybe you'll make a good race car owner too, so I appreciate it.
There's
Chip
the way to start
everybody. Yeah, he's ready to go here at the streets of St. Pete, Paul.
Yeah, our network director, Wally Levitt, made the observation that you probably felt as though you're an NBA sideline reporter talking to Greg Popovich of the San Antonio Spurs, Dave, during the first part of that interview. So,
you know, there is.
I think Popovich said more usually in those interviews than Chip did at the beginning.
There is, Dave, a story to tell there, because you look around in the Ganassi pits, you will always see Jim McGee, one of the great team managers, years with Pat Patrick, chief mechanics, long history, successful history with the IndyCars. And he was telling me this morning that Chip will turn to him and ask what he sees. And he'll tell him, this is what I see. But then Chip will say, well, what should we do? And that's when Jim says, that's not my job. I don't worry about what to do. That's your job. So there's somebody else playing quick and loose with the answers as well.
Will Power, Juan Montoya, Filippi, Castro Neves, and Pagenaud, your top 5. Newgarden hangs around the top 10. Scott Dixon is there in 7th. Ryan Hunter-Ray, Jack Hawksworth, Carlos Munoz now your top 10. Sato has slipped outside of the top 10, but just barely. He's 11th quick. This is a work in progress. As fast as we give you these numbers, basically from 10 on back, they change on us. Kimball 13th quick, Hinchcliffe 14th quick, then Bourdais, Coletti, Kanaan, Karam, Huertas Simona Di Silvestro and Gabby Chavez, 21st quick. Marco has been languishing around the bottom of the timing and scoring charts, Paul, for most of this afternoon. And then Draconi, and that number 19 for Dale Coyne, is currently 24th quick.
But you're talking the slowest at a 1:05.01 and the quickest at a 1:01.87. That's still a fairly close field for starting out this early in the season and so many different things being worked on.
Yeah, no question. And we talked about the goal being, in addition to creating distinction between the new manufacturers, wanted to do so without affecting the competitive nature, and at least through the top 15 or 16 that you could throw the proverbial blanket over them in terms of timing and scoring. But also, Paul, I think if we can take it in another direction, that makes the margin of error so very, very slim when it comes to knockout qualifying in the Firestone Fast Six.
All right, let's do this with you right now. Mark Janes, you are an IndyCar team owner. Mark Janes International Racing, all right? And you know it's going to rain this afternoon, but you have to still go out in the rain. I mean, you've got the rain tires. You got to know what that car does there. But how do you approach that if you're one of these team owners, Mark? Do you just send them out for a little bit, or how do you approach a rain situation knowing that that could happen?
I think you get some laps in, to be honest with you, depending on how heavy the rain is. I mean, if it's heavy enough to make it dicey, Paul, I just don't think I risk it, because while weather forecasting is not an exact science, I don't think there's anything anywhere that calls for any rain at all on Saturday and Sunday. So
right.
I don't know what the reward is and what would make the risk worth it. I wish I had better news for the fans, and there might be a few takers, but I don't know that I would risk wadding up a race car just to try to get some laps into the wet when that's not going to be anything like the conditions will perform under Saturday and Sunday.
Well, at least as a race car owner, you've now been very candid with us, and we have an idea. But also, when we come back on the air for that second practice session, which is at 4:15 this afternoon, we'll find out how you stack up against, say, the Penskes and the Ganassis of the world, and what they do with their people. But it is an interesting aspect of this. You got the new car. It's pretty. Everybody's got beautiful new stuff. Do you want to put it out? Do you not want to put it out? Do you want to learn about rain this weekend, or would you rather wait for another time and place?
Yeah, owners will tell you it's easy enough to lose money in this business.
Yeah, it is very easy. They're keeping track of Joseph Newgarden, who has now moved up to third quick. He eclipses Felipe in doing that. Newgarden is a 1:02.06 now. That drops Felipe down to fourth. And then Helio Castroneves. Graham Rahal finally makes a solid appearance in sixth place. Simon Pagenaud is seventh. Scott Dixon is eighth. Ryan Hunter-Reay ninth. And Carlos Munoz is up in 10th place right now. Well, they were looking a moment ago at one of the corners, a chunk of what looked like some sort of a metal, or they're not sure what it is. We probably shouldn't say. Nevertheless, the IndyCar officials said, you know what? And a car just brushed it, so we hope that didn't tear a tire down. They've gone to the red flag until they get that back off of there. That kind of looks more like foil, a little lighter, doesn't it?
Something, a piece of cushioning or something from a headrest inside the cockpit. They're choosing to alert everyone to it, throw the red flag out. Let's get everybody back on pit road for a quick look-see, and then green flag will be back underway. Talking about Newgarden, we mentioned the fact that we think that he's ready for a breakthrough season. How about the off-season for one of the co-owners of that race team, the mother of two, climbing back into the cockpit and throwing it around the Chili Bowl? What a great story, Sarah Fisher.
Yeah, that she does that. She's still got the spirit in her. She loves racing, loves putting this team together, and has been very successful. I mean, having Newgarden 2 years in a row, that's success by an owner. So then she climbs in, go to the Chili Bowl and let's go racing.
And they were thrilled with the fact that Century 21 was pleased enough with their efforts in May a year ago that Century 21 Real Estate will be back on the car, will be the primary sponsor for Joseph Newgarden when we get to the month of May. So good news for that race team. And they have, by the way, folks, those of you that haven't had the chance to get out there, you're going to be amazed at the transformation that's taking part on Main Street in downtown Speedway. That shop is unbelievable. The Delara shop is open to the public and always taking tours. And as we mentioned, AJ Voigt just moved there, and a lot of great restaurants. And I think it's law, Paul, that during the month of May, you have to go to at least one breakfast to Charlie Brown's Pancake and Steak on Main Street.
That's a tradition, absolutely.
That's
Go to
right.
Indy, you got to go there. By the way, Wally Levitt, our network director who monitors the race control said the item was fairly soft, and they've already gone green flag, so no big issue there as we move now getting into the closing minutes of this practice session. Running the order now, Montoya has put himself in the 101 bracket. He is a 101.70. That makes him now the quickest, followed by Power, then by Newgarden, then by Felipe. Castroneves is fifth. So that's the top of the order as we go back to the green flag once again here at St. Petersburg. Clouding up just a little bit, but one of the other nice things about coming here is you just have to turn a little bit and look out on the water, and you can see the sailboats having a great day. And this is a Friday, so when you get to the weekend and everybody gets up here, it's a crowd of fine-looking boats crewed by some fine-looking people.
Well, I mentioned my position turned 10 just outside of the Dolly Museum and near the Mahaffey Theater, and again, I'm right across the street from the harbor, up and amongst the palm trees, and as you mentioned, a lot of Hardy race fans. This is one heck of a spring break party, and had the chance to attend a function last night, kind of the kickoff celebration hosted by Alan Bestwick of ABC, and had the chance to see Rick Baker, a Speedway, Indiana native and longtime mayor here at St. Petersburg. It's a guy that's widely and deservingly so given credit, I think, for reviving this event and making it, a staple of the Verizon IndyCar Series. And we appreciate these great race fans and always look forward to the opportunity to come to the Sunshine State to kick off the season.
Well, and St. Petersburg is very much a racing town. Even back before the long history of the Indy cars and their various iterations here, Trans Am ran here. And the second iteration of the Can-Am series ran here. Only then, you talk about the pier here, which you can see quite well. They would run out the pier, do the U-turn at the end, and come back. I think they finally decided that turn was a little too tight after they kept getting yellow flags in that area. But this town has always loved its racing. Well, with the session back underway, Montoya is the guy everybody's shooting for now.
Watching Elio Castroneves work his way around the track in that Hitachi livery. He's fifth quick at 104.68, as we mentioned. A three-time winner here is Elio Castroneves, and I think one of Elio's most iconic fence climbs took place here, Paul, in his most recent win at St. Petersburg when, and after Dan Weldon Way was dedicated to the late two-time 500 champion, Elio stopped the car in turn 10 right below us in our perch, and he climbed the fence and paid tribute to one of the greats of all time, and that photo will live on, and I think be a big part of the memories of Elio Castroneves as his career continues. The 19 machine is in the runoff area. That's Draconi driving for Dale Coyne, and it's in that sometimes troublesome turn 10. Jake Query's on pit road. Jake?
You had mentioned that Graham Rahal had found his way into the top six here speed-wise. I think they found something they liked, because when he came in, that car, they just took a look-see on him and did not make any adjustments to it before sending Graham Rahal back out. One of the interesting decals on that machine for Graham Rahal this weekend is that of Steak and Shake. They will begin a 6-race partnership with the team in sponsoring Graham Rahal beginning at Indianapolis. It is a 6-race deal. But one of the cool things about it, of course, Steak and Shake, the longtime steak, burger, and milkshake eatery, two things you can plan on. Number one, if Graham Rahal would be fortunate enough to win the Indianapolis 500 like his father did, then he probably will have, along with the ceremonial glass of milk, a planned milkshake in Victory Lane. Seems to be a natural fit, and it won't be hard to come by one, guys. This might make Graham Rahal's pit stall a very popular one in the month of May. They will have milkshake machines, giving everybody Steak and Shake milkshakes throughout the month of May.
Oh, put me down for that. You guys, you're kind of worrying me. I mean, that's the second restaurant that you guys have talked about.
There's gonna be a battle among our pit reporters for that pit box of the month of May. I can see that coming.
Montoya, who we now said is number one of the things that he has been doing is really charging hard into the turns. And again, everybody's saying with this new kit, getting in the turns, especially the approach, is going to be critical. And I mean, he's smoked the tires all over the place out there, but he's been rewarded with a 1:01.70, and that's the quick time right now.
How about that number 41 machine of Jack Hawksworth? Currently sits P3, and as I say that, he slips to fourth as Scott Dixon leapfrogs over him. So it's Montoya, Power, Dixon, Hawksworth, and Castro Neves, your top five. One of the Verizon cars has made its way
like Will
in the
Power
runoff
in 10.
The defending series champion, Will Power, who's looking to get restarted.
Yeah, they're going to have to turn him around and pull him back. We may see another red flag if they have to. No, he's under power, so maybe Will's going to get himself back. It looked like he killed it for a moment, but Will's now backing up out of the runoff area. Very slowly, I might add, which is smart.
Driving with a mirror is no question, and that's set up, backing right up toward the traffic and waiting for it to clear. And
he hammers it, spins it around, and
there he
goes
goes
back into the action. So our defending race champion, defending series champion, quick off and on, gets it stopped, and gets back on by spinning the car around under power. And
happy to see him have the
traffic.
number one on that car, Paul. That's of course a tradition that's not always followed by the series champion, but certainly Will Power and Team Penske and the folks at Verizon. And I would think that Will's mindset is, look, I came so very, very close 3 years in a row, and I finally get that monkey off my back. I'm going to take advantage of all the spoils that come along with that, and one of them is having the number one on your car.
But there are some teams, some owners who think that's bad luck.
Yep.
One of the most notable was Pat Patrick. We were talking about Jim McGee, worked for Pat Patrick, Gordon Johncock, Wally Dallenbach, drivers for that team. Johncock stayed with that 20, and they took a box and put a roll of toilet paper on it, put a number one on the toilet paper, and set that up in the corner because they decided that was not a number they wanted on the car. The success of the number one in an ensuing year wasn't always that great, so they didn't want to even risk it. Other teams do the same.
We mentioned that top five. Newgarden is sixth, Felipe is seventh, Ray Hall, Hunter Ray, and Sage Karam now has worked his way into the top 10. Pagano is 11th quick than TK. Carlos Munoz is 26th quick. Sato is 14th quick, driving the number 14 car. And the 83 of Charlie Kimball is into the top 15 now.
Reporting a quick runoff in 4. We'll try to update you on that. We're, and it's clear already. You talked about Jack Hawksworth, who last year drove for Brian Herta Autosports, and this year for A.J. Foyt. Another very promising driver. He showed moments of real brilliance last year, and now that he's got Larry Foyt running the team, and of course when he gets to the track, A.J. had a really tough winter in and out of the hospital, but he's on the mend and actually showed up at one of the practice sessions. And so, get a little guidance from A.J., that always helps. Another guy you were talking about, Sage Karam. He's the only one that's really gotten one into the wall, and that was at the Barber test, and he learned that lesson. The lesson being that you take your hands off the steering wheel when the wall's coming, but he didn't, and so he had a bit of a problem with his right wrist. He can drive, obviously, no problem there, and they've cleared him for it.
We'll go back to Hawksworth, that 2012 Star Mazda title. He was very dominant. In 2013, he had 3 wins and 6 podiums, but had some questionable decision-making that, quite frankly, could have cost him a championship. And it's a bit of a head-scratcher, quite frankly, when he was announced as the driver. Many felt that he could have used another year in Indy Lights, but, Paul, I think at times last year he more than quieted his critics. He had 5 top 10s last year running that 98 car. It was very racy at times. He led a total of 32 laps. So I think all in all, Jack Hawksworth surprised a lot of folks, maybe everyone but himself. And right now it looks as though that he certainly belongs because he has that 41 machine in the top 5 here in the first practice session for A.J. Foyt.
And just a few moments ago, we were talking about finally getting side by side. Tony Kanaan and Will Power went side by side for a turn or two, not aggressively side by side, but one of the other things they have to learn with these new packages is what is the aerodynamics doing to the car behind you, and where can you approach that car in front of you, and what effect it might have on you. It's another thing that they're all learning now, so you're going to see them try to get in there.
Well, we mentioned it during our earlier show this morning covering the Indy Lights that by and large, teams feel like that they want to be able to get off the hairpin with as much momentum as possible the last turn to take as much advantage as they can of this long airport front straightaway. But the two trouble spots that we're going to find out, I think, where the car reacts well when it's side by side is coming off of turn number 8 through 9A, and coming up to turn 10. And there's also an opportunity to drag race through 11 and 12, even though it does have a funneling effect through their pole. So a couple of places we're going to find out about not only the durability, but the ability of these cars to handle the draft and use shoot around another driver.
About 4 minutes and 45 seconds left in the first session for the Verizon Indy cars, and then they go back, they think about it, they watch the weather, and they will be out for their final practice at 4:15. The Indy Lights will be back, and we'll have them on the air here at 3:30 to 4 o'clock in the Eastern Time Zone, and then IndyCar is 4:15 to 5:30. Now, some of the cars that have been doing well, Sato may be the best example. He made a pretty good move up close to the top 10, and then a bunch of other people started laying speed down in that second group and pushed him back down, Sato, and then all of a sudden he jumps right back up, just does a lap that puts him in 10th place. So down like 10th through about 18th, they're beginning to learn stuff there as well.
Another driver that's clearly comfortable here. We've well documented that, marking her return to the series. And the number 25 machine is Simona Di Silvestro. She was flirting with the top 10 a couple of laps ago, Paul, but she's slotted in at 13th right now. Her best time at 1:02.33, and considering how long it's been since she's been in an Indy car of any kind, I think that speaks to the ability of Simona Di Silvestro in a Verizon IndyCar Series machine.
One of the questions I have is what's going on with Marco Andretti? He's only been able to put 22 laps down.
Yeah, it might have been an issue with the car. We're not sure because
exactly.
His lap numbers are way down. The only one close to him is Jake's, who's only turned 25 laps.
About everybody else has turned 29 or 30 laps. Montoya at 30. Powers turned 34. So he's been out there. He may be, actually, he and Coletti have the most lap count, both with 34. Dixon has 30, but here's Andretti with 22. So they're struggling with something.
And I noticed this most recent run from Marco is the first time he's strung a lot of laps together, Paul, because just moments ago, Marco had only turned 17 laps in this session. So Marco has spent a fair amount of time on pit road.
And so he is back out, still looking for time. It's still Montoya that's number 1. It's still Power second, Dixon third. Bourdais is now up to 4th. And, man, this is a guy that, believe me, he can lay it down. He actually is, Bourdais, the track record holder. And, again, as we said at the beginning, we cover the different iterations of open wheel racing and kind of put them together. That would have been an entirely different formula when he set the track record on this. It's a 1.8 mile circuit still. That was a 1:00.928 when he did that. So we're here, a new configuration, a new try. Bourdais still got it figured out. He just goes to 4th quick with a 1:01.84, and now we're talking 7th through 1st are all in the 1:01 range.
Yeah, because if we didn't blend those numbers, Paul, you talk about Bourdais, he would have one win to his credit. I think he'd like us to include the other 31.
Yeah, you get some of those stat guys that are like so totally into it. No, that's not a record there. That's a record here. But generally speaking, I think that's probably the best way to go about it. We're closing down now on the end of the session, actually showing about a minute and a half to go. A lot learned. You know, these cars will go back to their individual areas out of the pits. The computers will hook up, and then they'll get a lot of data off of the cars. Let's check in again on the pit road. Here's Jake.
You know, I was mentioning Graham Rahal earlier. One of the really neat sponsors he's got on board with him is the DA Lubricant Company, which was part of the Indianapolis 500 in the 50s. Michael Proniger is here as part of the company, and you guys partnered up with Graham Rahal. Car looks good so far. He's in the top 10, but take me through the decision to get back into IndyCar racing for the first time in some 60 years in a company that Tom Benford, the legendary name, is a part of.
Well, we had a great history with it and decided that, you know, it would be a great way to promote our company again through racing. And we'd gotten hooked up through some mutual friends, actually, that introduced us to the Rahals. And from there, we made a nice business arrangement with them, and the promotion and the business arrangement was perfect for DA.
Let's talk about DA real quick, and just in terms of, as we're in the final minute here of this practice session, what exactly the lubrication company does. You hear it and you automatically think, well, okay, they make oil, but what exactly does DA have involvement with?
Well, we'll take what's called a base oil from a refinery, and there are all kinds of different base oils. We'll combine it with the chemicals that make it whatever type of oil we're making, whether it's an engine oil or a hydraulic oil or any other type.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's a long-standing history with racing. It goes nearly 60 years, part of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for 4 years, I believe, 55, 6, 7, and 8, or it may have been 56, 7, 8, 9. But either way, as the checkered flag falls on this particular session, the green flag falling on your relationship with the Verizon IndyCar Series. We appreciate that. Look forward to seeing you over the course of the season.
Well, thank you very much. We look forward to it, too.
Again, that's Michael Portigay from DA Lubricant Company as Graham Rahal pulls in. Mark Janes, one of the things that brought this session to a close, not only the clock, but also Sage Karam, I understand, in turn number 4.
Yep, Sage, it looks like 4 and 10 the trouble spots here in this first session.
Certainly
Paul.
where we're going to keep watching from now on. The checkered flag has waved. DA Lubricants, by the way, the chairman there for the longest time was Tom Binford, who was the chief steward of the Indianapolis 500 for a very long time as well, and one of the greater chief stewards at that great race. You know, every position there, even the guard on gate 3 there's some sort of traditional thing going with him. And Tom Binford was one of the best. All right, session is done. Willpower is quick, a 101.47, followed by Montoya, a 101.70. Castro Neves, identical at a 101.70, is third. Then Scott Dixon, he's been working hard today, finally got it up to a 101.78. And then Bourdais, fifth, a 101.84. Hawksworth is sixth, 101.87, driving for A.J. Foyt. James Hinchcliffe, who was really driving that car hard, 101.95. That 1 through 7, those are the cars in the 101 range. Now, picking up with 8th and Kimball, that's a 102 flat, followed by Pagenaud, a 102.02, Newgarden, a 102.06, Felipe, a 102.08, Sato, last year's pole sitter, a 102.13, Rahal, a 102.19, Ryan Hunter-Ray, the Indy champion, 102.23, and Di Silvestro, a 102.28. That's your top 15. Let's go to Jake.
Actually, Dave first out here on pit road. That's okay. Here with Will Power. The year may change. The guy who's P1 doesn't. Nice way to start the season.
Yeah, very. Yeah, I mean, we use tires, obviously, anticipating that it's going to be wet this afternoon. So got a good read, went through some good changes. Now we'll go back and study and see what we can get.
Tell me about the aero kit, a lot more downforce around here. Were you able to tell a difference on the race course?
Yeah, I don't know what we qualified at last year, but it was definitely easier straight out of the box, like more grip. But it's still low grip, like you're still working it. It's not like, it's not comfortable, man.
Well, you guys talked a lot about how strenuous it would be inside the car with all this downforce, no power steering. A lot of you guys worked out a lot here in the off season. It's not comfortable. But, you know, it's funny. It's not comfortable, but, oh, by the way, you're P1. You're doing okay.
That only matters in qualifying and the race.
It's one practice down, many to go this season, but Will Power, he's all smiles down here on pit road.
Charlie Kimball also is out of his machine. Of course, that very familiar Novo Nordisk flex pin machine, car number 83. I saw you at a Pacer game talking about the upcoming season, saying that you were excited because of the aero kits, the challenges that provides. You've got a practice session under your belt now. How did that Chevy aero kit feel?
Well, I think it's good. I think it looks awesome. The Team Chevy guys have worked really hard over the winter and the last couple of years to come up with the aero kit. And to get out there the first session that really counts, you know, the open test was good, but to get out there first practice, and it looks like we've got a couple of Chevys up front and at least a couple of Ganassi cars inside the top 10 as well. So we're going to work a little bit more on the 83 Novolog Flex Pen car, but overall it's a good start and applying some of the stuff we learned over the winter.
Would you say that the car has more or less variety in terms of setup over the course of a weekend than you had a year ago?
Well, it's hard to say. We're only in session 1, Jake. I think we'll have to circle back on that one when we get to the end of the weekend. Overall, I think we're in pretty good shape from where we are. We may have to chase it a little bit, but we'll be all right.
Lastly, let me ask you, Charlie Kimball looking over all the data here. I want to ask you one other thing. Air thickened up just a little bit. How did that change the downforce of the feel of the car?
Well, I think most guys put tires on at the end. The track grip just came in, and so we just had to follow that grip level a little bit.
Good seeing you, and have a good weekend.
Thanks.
Charlie Kimball, as he takes a look at the telemetry in that 83. Dave first.
And here with Scott Dixon, third quickest in this initial practice session for 2015. How comfortable were things inside the car?
Yeah, not too bad. I think we ended up fourth. I think there was some guys, definitely Power, and a few others put on another new set at the end there to jump to the top. But generally the car felt pretty good. We haven't done any street course tire testing. We've done New Orleans and Barber, so. I was a little worried about how we were going to hit the streets of St. Pete, having not done any time at Sebring like a bunch of the others had on the other tire. So
how different was it then on the street course?
We had a lot of understeer. We missed on aero COP a little bit too for the first run, but generally the car's not bad. We've got some tunability in it. I didn't really put a very good lap together. At least we're in the hunt. We're not seconds off. We're a few tenths off. And, hopefully we can have a smooth weekend here.
All the more important, too, as you look up and see the cloud cover heading our way.
Yeah, it was nice to get some running in. We went through some pretty big sweeps on geometries and some other things out there, so it was nice to at least hit the ground and get some running in.
Welcome to 2015.
Can't wait, man. Thank you.
Scott Dixon, he smiles, too. All smiles here on Pit Road, guys.
Well, we will now, along with all of the crews, go down and try to find out what they found out once they download all the data from their onboard computers and start the analysis. But this session has gone very, very well. Nobody touched the wall. Few little runoffs. As you said, we now have to watch at least turn 4 and 10 because that's where most of that tended to occur. The quickest is Will Power, 1:01:47. So it's 3:30 in the afternoon that Mark will be back with the team for the Indy Lights as they come out. We're broadcasting from the Firestone studio. This is the Advanced Auto Parts Radio Network.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
A.J. Foyt down the main straightaway. The checkered flag is out. A.J.'s hand in the air. He is the winner. A.J. Foyt at Indianapolis has won his fourth 500-mile race. A.J. Foyt, our winner. The flag will fly now for Tom Stava and then for Al Unser. We will be talking with all of these drivers in just a moment.
And we await A.J. Foyt along with a host of others, including Tony Holman, who is cheering as loudly as the crowd. We've seen what has never been seen before, beginning with a woman driving in the field in the morning and A.J. finishing 4 up front at Indianapolis. Headed into victory lane now, A.J. Foyt, the gleaming Gilmore 14 Coyote, the Gilmore Racing Team, home, and he wins again.
And there's the check flag for Mark Donahue, winner of the 1972 Indianapolis 500-mile race.
Oh my goodness, we have 7, 8, 10 cars in a pack headed for one Jerry.
Well, you talk about the crowd getting on their feet. They do. So far, so good. They are nose to tail, a little bit of room.
temporal scanner thermometer, the #1 preferred choice among nurses and doctors. Is brought to you by Exeter. Today's look
Okay, how about a level for you? Do you think a level would be nice? I must not have attached these to Chris or something. I'd rather do it this. I mean, the quality's better doing it this way. Well, wait, how did you didn't get a voice check though? But I didn't talk loud. Okay, here it is, loud. Here we go. This is the St. Pete close. Stop it. All right. Let me get this microphone position. The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg is brought to you in part by Firestone, the official tire of the Verizon IndyCar Series. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone. Advance Auto Parts, introducing Speed Perks, a simple rewards program for guys who love getting under the hood. Exergen Smart Glow Temporal Scanner Thermometer, making life easier for today's families. Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, fresh brewed iced tea with a kick. The Indy Racing Experience, the fastest seat in sports. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com for a free rate quote. Hinchman Racing Uniforms, nothing fits like a Hinchman. And by Verizon, official technology partner and provider of the Verizon IndyCar Series. The network general manager is Wally Levitt. Master control by Chris Pollock, production assistance by Paul Levitt. The chief engineer is Rick Evans. In the booth, our driver analyst, Davey Hamilton. On the course, Mark Janes and Jake Query. And in the pits, Nick Yeoman, Kevin Lee, and Dave First. I'm Paul Page, inviting you to join us on Sunday, April 12th at 3 p.m. Eastern for the Indy Grand Prix of Louisiana at NOLA Motorsports Park. This program is copyrighted by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network. Grand Prix of St. Petersburg is brought to you in part by Firestone. The Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Really? Oh, that's just scary. Let me look something up for my own. Okay. Get all that right. Put that away. Ready when you are, JD. All right, it's RE here. Live coverage of the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg on the Advance Auto Parts IndyCar Radio Network is brought to you in part by Firestone, the official tire of the Verizon IndyCar Series. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone. Advance Auto Parts, introducing Speed Perks, a simple rewards program for guys who love getting under the hood. Exergen Smart Glow Temporal Scanner Thermometer, making life easier for today's families. Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea, fresh brewed iced tea taste with a kick. The Indy Racing Experience, the fastest seat in sports. Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com for a free rate quote. Hinchman Racing Uniforms, nothing fits like a Hinchman. And by Verizon, official technology partner and provider of the Verizon IndyCar Series.
fickle dame, huh? Welcome back to the streets of St. Petersburg. I'm Mark Janes. 2015 season underway. The Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tire and also the Verizon IndyCar Series. Well, let me rephrase that. If it has wheels and a motor, is running here this weekend. There are several series, in fact. The entire Mazda Road to Indy Series is here. That, of course, the USF 2000 and Pro Mazda. As we mentioned, the Indy Lights, Verizon IndyCar Series, and World Challenge here as well. I am joined in the booth for this session by Jake Query. We've been enjoying Jake's work on pit road throughout the day, and so Nick Yeoman left the booth and has set up shop on pit road. And Nick, we'll go to you first. As we mentioned, Mother Nature dampening things here at St. Petersburg. Certainly not the spirit, but the pavement, the bleachers, and these sleek-looking brand-new 2015 Indy Lights machines.
Good afternoon, Mark Janes. The good news is it looks like the raindrops have stopped down here on pit lane, but as you mentioned, the racetrack is soaked up and down pit lane. A lot of these Indy Lights cars have umbrellas covering the cockpits. Some of them even have complete car covers. So not a lot of teams jumping into the go and starting this practice session off green. A lot of drivers going to wait. Maybe a great opportunity to talk to a couple of these drivers. We'll make our way over here. Shelby Blackstock, he's a rookie in Indy Lights, driving for Andretti Autosport. I know the first session was green and clean, but this isn't really what you want from the second session, is it?
Yeah, absolutely not. We definitely need to go out there and get some more testing time on these brand new cars. I mean, it's a overall great chassis, and unfortunately we're looking for more track time, but we'll see if it dries out.
This is now your fourth year with Andretti Autosport, making the way up from USF 2000, spent 2 years in Pro Mazda. You get to the Indy Lights, brand new car. How exciting is that for a race car driver?
Oh, extremely exciting. I mean, the old car definitely had a really good life, but it's time for the new era. And in the end, it turned out to be a really good car. Delar did a really good job, and it's definitely proven itself.
How about the continuity of being with the same organization now for a fourth year? How big is that?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, by now it's a family type of group for me now, so it's a good time.
All right, we'll let you get busy. Got a prankster behind you. That's Matthew Brabham. We'll catch up with him in just a moment. But let's go a little bit further down to pit lane and catch up with Rob Howden.
Standing here right now with Scott Hargrove. Scott, obviously last year a bittersweet run for you, second place in the Pro Mazda Championship, but you won races again. You've shown you can win races up and down the whole ladder. You find yourself in the 8-star Indy Lights car here. You tested it in January. Rolled in here and hadn't driven since January, and bam, you put the thing P3 this morning. You must have felt pretty good getting back in the car.
Yeah, exactly. Not driving since January doesn't seem to hurt us much. I was fortunate to get the funding to do this one race, and hopefully we'll be able to continue that into the rest of the season, especially Long Beach coming up in a few weeks. So the goal is to do well here and then see what happens, and that's exactly like you mentioned. Finishing third in the first practice was a good result for us. And, a little rain won't get us down. We'll go back out there and hopefully put it in the front row for tomorrow.
Great new program back home in British Columbia. Talk a little bit about BC Pit Crew.
Yeah, well, it's a group for BC businesses, British Columbia, because I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, and it's basically a group for businesses to come and support my career, but also get promotion out of it for less amount, a lower dollar figure than you would find from a single sponsor. So it's just trying to attract a lot of quantity, and so far we've had a lot of success, and looking forward to if we can continue that success into Long Beach.
How did you feel with the race car this morning? Obviously it's been since January since you tested, but you said you got into the car and it felt pretty good. A little different than the Pro Mazda that you drove here last year.
It's a little different, more horsepower, more downforce, but it's a lot of fun. And like you said, the 8-star guys they know their stuff. And I'm thrilled to be with them, and they gave me a great car this morning, and I'm sure it's going to be a great car for the rest of the weekend.
The radar doesn't look really good for this session, but are you going to go out, or are you just going to hang out here?
Being the only wet session of the weekend, it's not looking likely, but you never know if it'll dry out. We'll be out there for sure.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks a lot, Rob.
Scott Hargrove, folks, let's go back to Nick Yeoman.
Tell you what, Rob Howden, I think I lied about the rain stopping, because hearing about the last couple minutes, I'm sure you felt it as well. Everyone on pit lane feeling it. The wind is picked up, blowing in the faces of the drivers if they were out on the racetrack down the front straightaway, but not getting any drier down here. Let's catch up with Matthew Brabham. I know you're excited to be back in an Indy Lights car, a full-time campaign last year, just a one-race deal as of now, but this has got to be a big opportunity for you to be back with this Andretti Autosport team.
Yeah, absolutely. I know all the guys, I raced them for last year, and they're a great bunch of guys, so I'm good to be back with them, and it's nice to be at the first round and not watching from the sidelines. I watched the testing from the sidelines, and that really sucked. It's horrible watching if you're not driving, but yeah, happy to be here, and hopefully the weather gets a little bit better and we start getting some more laps and get things underway.
What do you think of this new car? I mean, you did have one practice session this morning to get a feel of it.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. It's got so much more power than the last year's car. It's way more nimble, and it's just an overall more fun car to drive, so I'm having a lot of fun in it. And it's great. Everything's brand new. All the systems are up to date, and it's got a lot more technology than the old car, so yeah, it's fantastic.
You've been busy, too. Talk us about this Andretti Autosport program in FIA Formula E. You've been testing and got to race the car a couple times, right?
Yeah, it was great. Big thanks to the Andretti guys for putting me in for that and a couple of races. And, yeah, I just had a ball, developing the electric technology with them. And it was kind of a new thing for me because we were developing the car and really trying to understand and improve things more on an engine side, whereas usually I'm used to doing the setup of the race car, which is the thing I've been doing the last 3 years in the Mazda Road Indy. So had a lot of fun with that. Got to travel to Malaysia, Beijing, and Uruguay as well. So yeah, it was awesome.
Final thing I want to ask you, what did you learn from a year ago? I know on the previous rungs of the Mazda Road Indy ladder system, you dominated. You had that year in Pro Mazda where it seemed like you won about 90% of the races. Last year, certainly you got to victory lane at Indianapolis, but what did you learn through that entire experience?
I guess just trying to get used to the old car was the hardest thing for me. There was a lot of experience with the guys that had raced the car before were always really quick, so it was tough to get on their level, but just setup and just general things and it was more of a character building year, I think, last year, so I'm ready to go this year.
You positive that you were going to see in more than one just this race?
Pardon?
Are you positive that we're going to see you maybe in an Indy Lights car more this season?
Well, I'm not positive yet. I wish I could say that as a definite, but it just depends. We're trying to get sponsorship together and get out there for more races, but at the moment we just have this race going on and that's it.
All right, glad to see you here. That's Matthew Brabham. He's piloting the second Andretti Autosport car here at St. Petersburg. Let's check back in with Rob Howden.
Well, just so we know, folks, we are green on the racetrack right now. None of the teams or drivers have suited up to get onto the racetrack, but the track is green. The session clock is counting. Standing here now with Spencer Pickett, who will drive one of the 3 cars that are going to have this beautiful candy apple soul red color. The drivers who are, of course, sponsored by Mazda through the Road to Indy program, and your championship last year in Pro Mazda put you in this beautiful Dallara IL15 this year. This morning's practice session cut a little short, some issues. Talk about the trouble you had this morning.
Yeah, we had a little bit of an issue this morning with the throttle body on the back end of the car, but we got it fixed. It took a little bit of time. We lost some laps, so not the ideal start to the weekend, but luckily I've been here plenty of times. I know which way the corners go, but it is a lot different in this Indy Lights car than the cars I've driven here in the past, so it's a bit of a shame now getting rained out, but we'll give it our best in qualifying.
You do have some experience here. I know you're living in Indianapolis now, but you're an Orlando native. Obviously, Florida's always kind of a home race for you. You're back here in St. Petersburg again. The stuff you learned from USF 2000 and Pro Mazda, can you really use that here now with the Indy Lights car, especially that you haven't had a lot of track time?
Yeah, definitely I can relate to my past experiences, especially the track, knowing the line, knowing where the bumps are, which ones we can use, which ones to avoid. But still, it's totally different in this car. It's so much power. You just arrive at the corners way quicker than you think and that I'm used to. So it's a lot of fun. But, you can't make a mistake. There's no room for error. But, definitely having a few years of experience is going to help.
What kind of grade would you give yourself maybe on your testing the start of the year? You were very strong. The new team coming in here. How do you feel you did during testing, and how do you think you are coming into the season?
I think we did well. It's obviously new for the Juncos guys as well. They've been working really hard. We've made a lot of improvements throughout winter testing, and we've been quick. Some places we've had a little issues, but overall I think we did really well, and hopefully we can put it all together this weekend.
You're going to have to find something in qualifying, aren't you?
Yeah, but that's what it's about. You never know what's going to happen, and we got thrown a bit of a curveball, but I think we're up to it.
Good luck this weekend.
Thanks, Rob.
Give you folks behind the wheel, the number 12, Juncos Racing, Dallara IL-15, the Mazda Speed sponsored car, Spencer Piggott, last year's Pro Mazda champion.
And he was in the top 10, and in terms of times and speed from the first session this morning, Ed Jones and Max Chilton went 1-2 for Carlin Motorsports, and you heard us earlier talking with Scott Hargrove, then Pedrahita and Brabham, then Piggott, Harvey, Kaiser, Sorales, Blackstock, Anderson, and Ethan Ringel. Those are the 13 cars that turned practice laps this morning in session number 1. This partnership, by the way, this session is going to be shortened 15 minutes by 5 minutes, but the session will be shortened 5 minutes. And again, the green flag is out. The clock is running for those of you who are the hardiest of motorsports fans who are still here on this practice day. In this Indy Lights series, and of course throughout the Mazda Road to Indy, Nick Yeoman, there's some outstanding partnerships that make it all happen. One of those is with Cosworth, and you're standing by with some folks from Cosworth on pit road.
Yeah, that's right. I'm with Steve Wesolowski. He works in business development with Cosworth. They provide complete chassis electronic systems to Indy Lights, including data loggers, wiring harness solutions, and then certainly the most visible part, I know, the in-car for these drivers. They've got a lot of data that they can go over, and Cosworth has a lot to do with that, right, Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. We're really proud to be a partner with Indy Lights, and what we've got is the CAN for Formula wheel. So it's a bespoke steering wheel for this group with a bunch of information on the dash. It's right on the wheel, so they can look at speed, RPM, engine temps, all those kinds of things. They got 3 different pages of information they can look at while they're driving around the circuit.
How exciting is that from your standpoint to work with a brand new car and get to work with the electronics?
Well, it was a great partnership from everybody. You know, being there from the start, we can design the chassis harness where it needs to go and work with everybody and put things in the right place, and everybody was great. This was one of the easiest installs we've ever done because we were there from day one.
You enjoying the rain down here on pit lane?
Oh yeah, we don't sell umbrellas though, so there's not electronics that does very well in the rain, so not too sad to see these guys sitting here on pit lane right now.
All right, we'll let you get dry. Thanks, Steve.
Right, thanks.
That is Steve Wesolowski. He is with business development for Cosworth. Let's check back in with Rob Howden.
You know, we're standing here with a guy who obviously knows what's happening in terms of the tire program here. We've got rain tires on these cars right now, but when we were in a dry, we had the new Cooper tires on these Indy Lights cars. Chris Pantani from Cooper Tires, you guys brought a new tire to the program this year. Give us a little insight into the new rubber we have for Indy Lights.
Well, thanks, Rob. The new tire was actually developed on the old car initially. We used several drivers, Tristan Vautier, Connor Daly, to really tune in this tire. And what happened was, after numerous rounds of testing, we came up with a new construction, new compound. Taking that tire to the 2015 vehicle, we wound up being between 2 to 3 seconds faster on this car.
Now, what about the rain tires we're working on here right now? Talk about a little bit about maybe the design of the tire. How aggressive are you in terms of tread pattern?
The new tire, especially for the wets, is a directional tire. It's molded. It's a phenomenal wet tire. We've proven this tire at Toronto last year. If you remember the diluge of rain we got, I mean, it was unbelievable. So what we did was modify the compound of this product, and for days like this, we can run all day long on this. The wear is very good. It can probably last a race. So for that aspect, I think we're really good to go.
We're hoping we get back to slicks tomorrow because I want to see these guys go hardcore with these new cars.
Definitely so. This is a beautiful new car, the IL-15. I know Dan Anderson did a great job and Tony Kottman putting this program together. So for everything else we're doing, we're really excited to see this on the grid.
Chris, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob.
Cheers, folks. Chris Pantani from Cooper Tires, and we'll go back to Nick Yeoman.
Yeah, and I'm here with Ed Jones. He's a rookie for Carlin Racing. I appreciate you holding the umbrella over my head. I got the rain jacket on, but we're all getting wet regardless. This isn't a lot of fun. I know as a rookie, you were very fast this morning. I know you want to get back in that car, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's a shame about the weather. This morning went so well for Carlin as a team. Both me and Max were right on the pace. It's just a bit annoying. We wanted to learn a bit more about the track. It went really well, learned it quite quickly. But hopefully for the next 2 days, the weather's looking really good and it will be sunny and hot like it should be.
What's this process been like for you? I mean, coming over, racing to America, I mean, obviously, certainly you've had quite a bit of testing time to do with this Carlin, this initial operation with this brand new Indy Lights car. What's the whole experience been like for you so far?
Yeah, it's been an amazing experience so far. I moved to Miami, so whole new thing for me living in America. Working with Carlin as well, it's a new experience for them. But so far it's gone really well. With the driving, all the tests we've been really fast. And then here we've already proved how quick we are straight away in the testing. And also living in America, for me, I'm loving it so far.
You're a rookie to Indy Lights, but certainly not a rookie to Carlin. Talk about the relationship that you've had with them over the years.
Yeah, so I raced with Carlin last year in Formula 3, FIA Formula 3. Unfortunately, the season was going really well in the first 2 races, and then I broke my back in a street circuit race, so it hindered the rest of the season, but I made it recovery, and so far it's going really well.
All right, we'll let you get dry. It doesn't look like anybody's hopping in cars, but thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that is Ed Jones. He is a rookie for Carlin Racing, and Mark James very fast this morning. He and his teammate Max Chilton pacing the field in that first very dry practice here at St. Pete.
I think it just goes to show what a blank slate we have, considering we have teams that have returned to the series that are normally front runners like Schmidt-Peterson and Andretti Autosport. Well, he's not just here in name. He's been waiting patiently, but the session, by the way, has been checkered. And Jake Query, I want to get your thoughts and impressions. You were down there for the first session. Just how aesthetically pleasing is that car once you see it come onto pit road, come off the pit road, down the straightaway? You had a chance to get up close and personal with it this morning.
Very. Not only is it a sleek-looking car, but at the same time, Mark, the thing about it that I like is typically in the past, and maybe some of this is just the suggestion in the mind, but you think of the Lights car as just being a smaller, lighter car. And it is to an extent, obviously, because the weight balance for the driver, you are still trying to ascent yourself to the career being able to handle a Verizon IndyCar Series car. But it is not as noticeable to the eye now. It looks, when you look at it, you do not look at it and think that it looks like a smaller car. It looks like a full-size race car. I love the chassis design. I think it's outstanding. And in addition to that, I like the competition and the fact, Mark, you and I were talking last week about some of the drivers that were returning, and I was saying certainly that Jack Harvey would be the front runner to win the points championship this year based on what he did last year, and you said not so quickly, because we've got some new guys coming into the series that bring with them a very versatile background in terms of running in different series in Europe, all the way and including up to Formula One. So those are the things that you look at. I just think the depth of talent we see year in and year out of drivers coming into the Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tires series, you're starting to see now a balance of week in and week out different guys that have an opportunity to work their way up towards a podium. But I think it's going to be fun. I certainly understand why you don't necessarily go out now and take risk at, especially when you have a new chassis that you're still getting a feel for. If it were to be rain all weekend, certainly this would be a valuable condition to familiarize yourself with, but I think this is going to be an anomaly for this weekend weather-wise, so there's probably not a lot of reason to go out there, get out there and risk getting loose or doing a runoff and damaging your car.
Having worked the Indy Lights shows the past couple of years for the folks on television, we're happy to have you back with us, but I know for me personally it's been really satisfying to have the opportunity to watch some of these guys start at the lower rungs of the ladder now and work their way up and get to the pinnacle of the sport. Most recently, guys like Newgarden and Hawksworth and
Carlos
most
Munoz.
recently Gabby Chavez and Carlos Munoz. I'm sure you'll echo those sentiments.
Yeah, I would agree with that entirely, and it's funny when you look back and think to, and the years do go by pretty quickly, but you think to 4, 5, 6 years ago when we were here and you're first becoming familiar with those names that you're talking about, and certainly when you go down and you look all the way back in the history of Indy Lights, the number of drivers who have come through this series, all the way up into a guy like Brian Herta, who now is an owner, in
Sure.
the IndyCar series. So that's what the system is set up to do, Mark. It's set up to bring guys and give them an opportunity and eventually graduate them into the Verizon IndyCar series and keep them here underneath the same umbrella. So it would be the hope that some of the talent that we'll see this year will stay indeed within that series.
That's Jay Query. I'm Mark James. We almost feel guilty for taking money for this, especially after the job that Rob Howden and
I
Dick
didn't
Gilman
know
did on
we
pit
are.
road. Yeah, they did a great job down there and got us up close and personal, especially with some of the guys that are new to the series, and we appreciate all of their efforts. That'll do it for the Lights today. First up for them, a qualifying session at 9:30 Eastern tomorrow. You can join us for all of that action. We're not done here today. It remains to be seen whether or not the Verizon IndyCar Series team will take the same wait-and-see approach to the final practice session scheduled for 4:15. Again, if we are to believe the weather prognosticators, this is the only chance we have for rain throughout the course of the weekend. So will anyone risk it? Will they use the track time if it indeed stays wet? We'll begin to answer those questions for you with Paul Page and the rest of the gang at 4:15 Eastern. I'm Mark Janes. So long for now from the streets of St. Petersburg.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
A.J. Foyt down the main straightaway. The checkered flag is out. A.J.'s hand in the air. He is the winner. A.J. Foyt at Indianapolis has won his fourth 500-mile race. A.J. Foyt, our winner. The flag will fly now for Tom Sneva and then for Al Unser. We will be talking with all of these drivers in just a moment.
And we await A.J. Foyt along with a host of others, including Tony Holman, who is cheering as loudly as the crowd. We've seen what has never been seen before, beginning with a woman driving in the field in the morning, and A.J. finishing 4 up front at Indianapolis. Headed into victory lane now, A.J. Foyt, the gleaming Gilmore 14 Coyote, the Gilmore Racing Team, home, and he wins again.
And there's the checkered flag for Mark Donahue, winner of the 1972 Indianapolis 500-mile race.
Oh my goodness, we have 7, 8, 10 cars in a pack headed for one Jerry.
Well, you talk about the crowd getting on their feet. They do. So far, so good. They are nose to tail. A little bit of room. There's about an 8-car pack in front of Gary Lee right now.
Yeah, and in that pack, second place and third place. Little Al has gotten around Jack Villeneuve. He's back up to second, and now 2 cars separate second and third. Mr. Excitement is that youngster, that second-generation driver. We're impressed with Jack Villeneuve, but right now he's dropped to third. And there's Al Unser Jr. and then Bobby Rahal. Jack Villeneuve goes on the outside. He goes right. You can't go too wide in the turns. They're doing it today.
They sure are coming through 4. Now they go single file. Maybe they got a little scared last time. Who knows? But going through 4 this time, everybody single. They come toward the main straightaway. Bob Jenkins. That was just a breathtaking moment.
This is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network. is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now, perfectly aligned, back on the main straightaway to call the start of the greatest spectacle in racing, the voice of the 500, Paul Page.
Oh, they came off of turn 4 beautifully. They look for the green flag. The green flag is out. And from the center of the road, James Hinchcliffe pulls away. Power tried to duck over behind him, but Hinchcliffe is in front.
They must have found something with that car because he was not happy with the balance, not happy with the amount of horsepower he could have during that first run. Marco slides that bright yellow and blue Snapple car into pit lane. The fueler will engage the hose and the 4 tire changers will go to work. Marco has charged to the front. His grandfather won in 1969. A good pit stop for Andretti as he exits pit lane.
Hunter Ray slung past on the inside of Ed Carpenter. Marco Andretti in third. Then Scott Dixon, Elio Castroneves. That's the front 5 in the turn number 3, Mark James.
Not sure on restarts that up front is the place to be because of what happens with the slipstream, if you will. Ed Carpenter right there. Marco Andretti. Then Scott Dixon. Then Elio Castroneves. Front 5 set sail for the north end. Hunter Ray trying to draft. Carpenter going into 1. And Carpenter on the outside. Ryan Hunter Ray on the inside. Hunter Ray will make the pass again. And Marco Andretti stays in the number 3 spot. He may want number 2.
Guys, Will Power and Carpenter, Marco Andretti. Power beats him out of pit lane. So it's Power, Marco Andretti, Ed Carpenter, followed by J.R. Hildebrand.
And Hunter Ray darts in, moves to the outside as they get the white flag. 1 to go, Jerry.
They are side by side. Elio looks to the outside. Elio will have to take the number 2 spot. He's right on the rear wing of Ryan Hunter Ray.
Hunter Ray looking for number 1. Elio Castroneves looking for win number 4. Ryan Hunter Ray, 8 car lengths in front as they move in the backstretch for the final time.
Did Elio make the move? 3 laps too early. Does he have anything at all left in the tank? A couple of turns to go. Ryan Hunter Ray leads in Indy. Turn number 800 is upon us. Less than a car length is the difference. The final turn. Hunter Ray to call the finish. The voice of the 500, Paul Page.
And it is Ryan Hunter Ray that is going to lead Elio Castroneves across the line. Ryan Hunter Ray has his first Indianapolis 500-mile race win. Elio Castroneves will have to wait for another year to get his 4th victory at the Indy 500.
This is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network. IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
John Andretti starts to close into the back of Mansell. So John Andretti, who will drive 2 races in one day, is having one incredible drive here this morning. John Andretti strong, trying to run down the line. Nigel Mansell, a very quiet month. And look here, they almost go 3 wide. Now they get down into single file. And Robbie Gordon now running strong. He had some handling problems early, but Robbie moving up through the field.
As they head through 4, the big battle right now, Boycel clears traffic and gets through very safely. And everyone again making it through 4 as they head toward 1 and Jerry Baker.
Well, Mansell's found some running room all by his lonesome. Now we were watching Eddie Cheever. Man, he appears to be really flying out there. Oh, we got a bad crash in 1. 2 cars are gathered in. We've got a quick flash fire. It is out. Cars dive to the inside. One of the cars up against the outside wall dodges the crash. They are side by side just as we come out of number 1.
Less than half a lap ago. Gordy Johncock by 5 car lengths over Rick Mears. They're in the north short chute. Here they come. This is the final quarter lap. Johncock maintains the lead. The boys of the 500, Paul Page. Who's going to win it?
Gordon Johncock off the 4th turn. Mears is right behind him. Johncock. Mears makes a try. Johncock wins it by less than 1/10 of a second. Gordon Johncock has won his second 500. Rick Mears comes across in second place, almost side by side. And you should see the celebration that is taking place at the Paddock Racing pits. An incredible celebration now as they run down toward victory lane. What a finish.
Let's see what happens with the 68.
I think he's going to climb
the fence. He is out of the car, and Helio Castroneves climbs the fence in the front straight.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network. IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
The lead is down to 2.5 car lengths. Helio Castroneves looking for 2 in a row. Paul Tracy has him in his sights.
Oh, the qualifying struggle for Team Green, but boy, Paul Tracy looking good right now. And Greg's back in 2 as Tracy tries to make the pass in the north. Then he heads toward Preston Airy. Action is on the speedway.
And Paul Tracy has made the pass. He's gotten around Castroneves. Mikey, heads your way. Paul Tracy will take the yellow flag. It looks Indianapolis 500 as the yellow and white are displayed.
Yes, we can see him now, and he's right down to that white line on this lap, too, as he streaks through here, right up onto the back stretch, and in just a second or so, Bernie Herman should be able to see. Okay, Howard, here comes Parnelli now, the torrent man from California. White helmet, blue visor, and I'm sure he's going to be a very, very happy guy. And down to you, Mikey Hurt. Okay, Bernie, we've got it. Here comes Parnelli. Shows he's fast as he gets around me here by Roger McCluskey. McCluskey spins there in the corner. Hold it. We've got one car going
1-2. You might want to check with Dave as well.
McCluskey right there. He's okay. He's sitting in his car. The cars are coming around him. We'll follow. See if it's all right. They're all going on the inside.
Check. You like that? You happy? You happy? It's all about you. Whatever you want.
Now they're running under the yellow flag. Jones went around it a moment ago. McCluskey passed it on the
And there's the checkered flag for Parnelli Jones, the winner of the 1963 500-mile race.
As they come onto the main stretch, it's Mario Andretti being chased by Danny Sullivan. Sullivan darts out, pulls alongside Mario Andretti. It's a drag race down the main stretch. Can Sullivan pull Andretti into the first turn, Ron Carroll?
It is Danny Sullivan gets him. Danny Sullivan gets him down. No, he's twirling. No, he's spinning. Danny Sullivan spins, but he goes around twice and gathers it.
Absolutely incredible. Danny Sullivan spun in front of Mario Andretti, gathered the car back up and continues on, and Sullivan only fell back to second place. Larry Henry, they're coming to you.
Well, this is reminiscent of Roberto Guerrero a year ago with Roberto Guerrero's Paddock kept going. Here comes Mario Andretti now. Here's Danny Sullivan after that spin. He'll have to change tires, but what a job of driving by the man from Louisville, Kentucky, Danny Sullivan.
Absolutely unbelievable. Danny Sullivan got past Andretti in the short chute and then lost control of it. And he spun the car completely, but he caught it, regained control, and continued on.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network. Verizon IndyCar Series on IndyCar Radio.
And history is matched as the twin checkered flags come out for our second four-time winner of the Indianapolis 500, Al Unser. Roberto Guerrero comes across the line, finishing 4.4 seconds back. The Penske team scores another victory. Al Unser has won the Indianapolis 500-mile race.
A.J. Foyt now coming down to the white line. In turn number 2, he looks kind of happy as he goes through 2 onto the backstretch, and in just a second he'll be up to Chuck Marlowe on his final lap.
Rajar Howdy, and he has the backstretch all to himself. Here he comes, A.J. Foyt, number 1, entering up toward that northeast turn, the big wave to all the fans. He's in the northeast, and Mikey Hurst.
We got him here. People waving their hands, waving to him, and he waves back as he takes the turn number 3. One more turn to go to Jim Shelton.
And he's in this turn right now, Mike. White car, big gold number 1, a happy A.J. There you have what looks like our winner, and I don't think he can miss now. He has about half a straightaway to go, and here's Sid Collins.
Well, nothing should happen now, and here comes the car, the Sheraton Thompson Special, the checkered flag for A.J. Foyt, with the right hand up in the air, waving to the crowd, the winner of the 1964 500-mile race.
And there the checkered flag waving, and Maury Rose is the winner. Rose is the winner of the 31st running of the Indianapolis 500-mile Motor Speedway Classic.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network. On the IMS Radio Network.
A.J. Foyt down the main straightaway. The checkered flag is out. A.J.'s hand in the air. He is the winner. A.J. Foyt at Indianapolis has won his 4th 500-mile race. A.J. Foyt, our winner. The flag will fly now for Tom Stava and then for Al Unser. We will be talking with all of these drivers in just a moment.
And we await A.J. Foyt along with a host of others, including Tony Holman, who is cheering as loudly as the crowd. We've seen what has never been seen before, beginning with a woman driving in the field in the morning and A.J. finishing 4 up front at Indianapolis. Headed into victory lane now, A.J. Foyt, the gleaming Gilmore 14 Coyote, the Gilmore Racing Team, home, and he wins again.
And there's the checkered flag for Mark Donahue, winner of the 1972 Indianapolis 500-mile race.
Oh my goodness, we have 7, 8, 10 cars in a pack headed for one Jerry.
Well, you talk about the crowd getting on their feet. They do. So far, so good. They are nose to tail, a little bit of room. There's about an 8-car pack in front of Gary Lee right now.
Yeah, and in that pack, second place and third place. Little Al has gotten around Jack Villeneuve. He's back up to second, and now 2 cars separate second and third. Mr. Excitement is that youngster, that second-generation driver. We're impressed with Jack Villeneuve, but right now he's dropped to third. And there's Al Unser Jr., and then Bobby Rahal. Jack Villeneuve goes on the outside. He goes high. You can't go too wide in the turns. They're doing it today.
They sure are coming through 4. Now they go single file. Maybe they got a little scared last time. Who knows? But going through 4 this time, everybody single. They come toward the main straightaway. Bob Jenkins.
That was just a breathtaking moment.
This is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
The Verizon IndyCar Series. We're talking St. Petersburg, Florida, the opening event of the 2015 IndyCar season. We're broadcasting to you from the Firestone studio. I'm Paul Page. Mark James is alongside, and Jake Query and Dave First are down pit side. Now, we're waiting for some official word because Mark turned out to be like the top weathercaster in the area, said it was going to rain. Radar said it was going to rain like 10 hours ago, but that's okay. He said it, and it is raining here, and it shortened the session with the Indy Lights. Nobody went out during the Indy Lights, and now IndyCar is taking a look at the track and trying to decide whether or not they even ought to attempt the practice session. So we'll be back right after this.
If there's one thing Firestone's learned over its 100 years in racing, it's that if you don't keep moving forward, you're going to get left behind. So even though Firestone has more Indy 500 wins than any other tire on the planet, we're always more concerned with what we've done for you lately. That's why we're constantly trying to make our tires stronger, last longer, and handle better than ever. And we bring that same commitment to every tire we make, whether it's for the racetrack or for the open road. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
So from St. Petersburg, Florida, we're waiting to see what IndyCar says about the weather. And Mark, you and I had talked in the previous show about whether or not you as an owner, if it were raining, would send anybody out. Now, right now, it's a fairly steady rainfall, and there are a number of places on the track where the water is pooling. So maybe your suggested call of I wouldn't send my guy out because, if nothing more, there's still these new aero kits are just that, brand new, and there aren't that many replacement pieces, so you really don't want to risk them at all.
Well, and we saw in the Indy Lights presented by Cooper Tire just a few moments ago, they were scheduled for a 30-minute session. They threw the green flag on it. Everyone sat on pit road, and then they shortened it to 25, and then they threw the checkers out, and no one turned a wheel other than to push the car out to pit road and back. And I think it's for the very reason, Paul, I think if there was any opportunity at all or any thought that there would be a chance for rain, unless something changes drastically, as we've said before, weather forecasters and prognosticators are saying tomorrow's going to be cool, windy, but picture perfect, dry. Same thing for Sunday, 72, sunny, dry, no mention of any rain. So as much as you'd maybe like to have some data on these cars in the wet, it's risk versus reward, and so far one doesn't make the other worth it.
Well, here's the really bad news. I'm looking at one of the cameras that looks out over the beautiful marina that is here, and those people are having to come off the boats and come on in. It's raining so hard. Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
We'll go out there and help them, though.
That's an inconvenience, most assuredly.
Well, let's tell you a couple of things about how we're handling this, because we're talking about track records. Now, Sebastian Bourdais actually holds the track record from back 2003. It's a 1:00.928. Different kind of car. Track's always been about 1.8 miles in length, but there have been minor changes to that. So we're kind of looking, Nick Yeoman actually came up with the concept of we're looking at the totalitarian part, total that long big thing, of all of the open wheel series and not dividing them out into which car this race, because if you did that, then the time set today would be records with the new formula.
Sure.
That makes sense to you? It almost made sense to me. So Takuma Sato last year sat on the pole here with a 1:04.738. Let me tell you, everyone in this field, save one, eclipsed that particular time. And the track record's still a little bit safe. Will Power is the quickest at a 1:01.47. And looking down the top of the field, Chevrolet seems to dominate right now. And, of course, everybody's really interested in how Chevrolet and Honda will fare with the new aero kits and everything. The top of the field, Power, Montoya, Helio Castroneves, Scott Dixon, Sebastian Bourdais. The first five are all Chevrolets. And then Jack Hawksworth, driving now for A.J. Foyt, has a Honda, and so does James Hinchcliffe. And then Charlie Kimball, and then Simon Pagenaud, and Joseph Newgarden rounding out the top 10. They are all Chevrolets. So that's how that thing all kind of sorts out for us, and we're looking to see how it goes as we go through not just the practice sessions, but when we actually get to qualifying, and see what they can really do with it, because in the practice you're never quite sure exactly what they are doing with those cars.
Yep, no question. We hate playing this waiting game, certainly, Paul. We understand it, but we don't like it nonetheless. Because there's so many questions that need to be answered, as we said earlier, there might even be more by the time we leave here. The first session, knock wood, was rather trouble-free and rather uneventful. A couple of guys had a couple of issues. One of them, Marco Andretti. We wondered why he didn't turn a lot of laps, Paul. We have since learned that Marco had problems with his braking system. So, it really limited Marco in scope to that session. He thinks they have those problems solved, and he was able to get 26 laps in. Most of those came in the last 15 minutes of the session, though.
Given the situation that we're in right now, the drivers have the opportunity to kind of stand around and talk with our guys. So right now, Graham Rahal, who won his very first race right here, is with Dave First.
I'll tell you, we're back here in the Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan paddock area, garage area. I mean, even the floor that's laid out, the plastic floor, which protects the concrete from everybody else, even that's wet. Everything's wet here in St. Pete.
Yeah, it's a bit slick out there now, but it's a shame because in the first practice, I went through turn 10 on my install lap, and the crowd, the stands were full. I was like, dang, this is a great turnout for a Friday. And so to not be able to run, I feel bad about it. But it's difficult because typically maybe we would, but we have no spare parts. So like with these aero kits, if something happens and you knock a front wing off the thing now, and you do it again in a race or something, you're done racing. So we got to be very cautious.
Well, you had to be very cautious even in practice this afternoon, did you? I mean, you really got to, watch your P's and Q's around here.
Yeah, Hunter Ray and I were talking about that. I mean, you're doing everything everywhere you go, every brake marker. Maybe I shouldn't go quite that deep, just in case, because you don't know. I mean, if something does go wrong and you knock something off, knock a rear wing off, or have, knock on wood, you don't have ever a big serious issue, but you have a big crash, you're in trouble. There's nothing else you can do. So, it's unfortunate for the fans that are here, obviously, because they're not going to see anything. But, and then there was a lot of stuff we wanted to try on this car today, to go back towards where we were at the Sebring test and see if we could pick up some of the speed that we had there. Unfortunately, we're just not going to have that opportunity.
Well, even you go back to the Barber test, you guys had the quickest Honda in that group, 13th quick in the session this afternoon. What were you able to learn in the time you were out there today?
Well, we tried after Sebring, testing there. We were the quickest there on the second afternoon, the second day, which was in the heat. And so we expected, okay, being that it's hot and slippery, that should translate. But then we came here and we were really worried or focused on securing the rear of the car, which is fine. But then the car was really struggling with physically turning, So, compared to power, I lost 0.2 just in the last corner, which is all front-end grip and things like that. So, if we can get some of that better, and I don't know, some guys may have run 3 sets of tires. It's hard to tell. We have 3 sets, and by rule, at the end of today, we have to return those 3 sets. So some guys may have used them. We only used 2, so it's a little hard to tell right now.
Tell me about, we talked in Barber about the aero kit for Honda. There are some 200 bits and pieces on this thing. You add it all up, you got like 1 million combinations. Can there be too many options to go through and not enough time to do it?
Well, there's a lot, and I think here it was interesting because I was looking at our run plan for this morning, and there's still test options on there. It's like, okay, if the car is doing this, well, we're going to have to kind of deal with it. We're going to have to just try to learn about the front wing or try to do something. So for sure, there's not enough time, there's not enough testing to truly figure this car out, but hopefully we'll get her by the time we go to Sonoma for the last race.
Well, you got a couple of months to work that out. By the way, speaking of months and things maybe happen in the off-season, congratulations, you got engaged in the off-season.
Yeah, well, that's...
Come on, this is the first time you're speechless. The lovely and talented Courtney Forrest, of course, from NHRA, you guys got engaged, and so it's going pretty well, yes?
Yeah, it's all good. I guess, anytime I'm away from the racetrack, it's like all I feel like I'm doing is getting yanked into wedding planning. You could have warned me about that before, Dave, but...
you didn't ask. I would have told you.
Yeah, well,
here I am. I'm doing it now. So it's good. You know, she and I are just texting here. She's up in Charlotte racing this weekend, and it's kind of the way our relationship goes, I think.
Here's the plan for you when it comes to wedding planning. Whatever she suggests, you just say yes.
I tried.
You're right.
I've tried it.
Do whatever you want to do.
It doesn't work with her. She's a force, right? There always has to be some conversation or some debate about some whatever. I tried. I said to her, I said, you know, whatever you want is fine with me. I don't care. That was not the right answer.
You care. No.
Yeah, well, that was not the right answer.
We're going to talk about this perhaps off air. Jake Quare, you got James Hinchcliffe, huh?
Yeah, James Hinchcliffe signing a couple of autographs. They just brought through his number 5 machine. New season, new team. These rain delays, I know sometimes can get you restless, James, but it gives you a chance to walk around and get to know everybody a little more, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I'm just so glad we got out this morning, you know, because to have the off season that never ended, you know, with the first race getting canceled, it being long anyway. If the first session had been delayed because of rain, that would have just been, you know, adding insult to injury. But we got out this morning. It's too bad we can't run in these conditions, but it's just not worth it. The forecast for the rest of the weekend is really good, so there's no point risking damaging our nice shiny new race cars here.
Was it obviously disappointing also because you're still, and I realize, I guess the question would be this, when you come to the aero kits, in your mind, we will be at race where you finally feel like, okay, we've got a real good firm hold on what this thing does for me.
Sonoma, you know, because it's and I say it sort of jokingly, but half truth as well, because you know every track we go to kind of has its own quirks and characteristics. You know, you can kind of put all street courses in one category and all road courses in another and all ovals in another, but it's not really that simple, you know. A track like St. Pete's maybe kind of like Long Beach, but very different from Toronto or Detroit. And obviously ovals like Milwaukee or like Iowa, but they're nothing like the Speedway or Pocono. So we got to go to a couple of these tracks and get a little bit of a database together before we really have a sense of everything. So Sonoma will be our 3rd road course, and by that point we'll have done all the ovals and all the street tracks, and that really is when I expect to kind of have a really solid understanding of what this thing needs.
I know change sometimes is difficult, but man, you landed with a great group of guys and a team that has, obviously, with Sam Schmidt, the track record speaks for itself. These guys know what they're doing. How excited are you, and what was it about this group that really enticed you?
You know, it was just that. You know, it's looking at a team from the outside that had been in the sport for such a short period of time in the grand scheme of things, come in and accomplish so much. And, you know, they were the giant killers. They were racing, you know, the Penskes and the Ganassis and the Andrettis for the championships 3 years, 2 years even into their IndyCar career, which as a driver was fascinating to watch, infuriating that they were so quick so soon. But, you know, that it really is what drew me to them. The potential here, I think, is massive. The guys are obviously great. A lot of smart minds here. And that's what you need, especially in a year like this where we've got a bunch of development.
The other thing, too, that's cool is despite or I should say in addition to the fact you got a cool-looking race car, you're going to be dressed well, right? Because Spider is a company that I started hearing more about at the end of last race season. I started seeing people wearing it, and I thought, well, this looks kind of like an outdoor, cool, casual gear. What is Spider exactly? I know they're on board with it.
Yeah, Spider, you know, it started really as a winter clothing line. Very big in the alpine ski world. They do not only for, you know, recreational skiers, they also do all the high-tech suits for the downhill U.S. and Canadian alpine teams. And they're kind of expanding into more than just the outerwear. They've got a new line called Spider GT coming out, which is, well, it's actually out now, that kind of more men's and women's casual, but, you know, higher-end casual stuff. So, you know, they've been a partner of mine now for a little over a year. We brought them on board with the team, so everybody's all decked out in their Spider gear, and everybody's loving it.
And then finally, Aero as well, being involved with you guys. I know you're excited about that partnership.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think the entire IndyCar series and every fan of the sport should be excited about this one, because Aero have, you know, such reach in the tech industry, so many great contacts with so many companies that are really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in technology, and we're working on a bunch of initiatives not only that are going to help, you know, Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, but some other ones that are really going to help the entire the overall fan experience of Verizon IndyCar racing. And in the next couple of years, I think we're going to see some really cool programs come out of these guys that really does bring the race track and the race experience to the people and to the fans And from that side of it, I mean, I'm super excited, and I think everybody that hears about what we're doing is as well.
One of the things that we're possibly going to be about to do here in St. Petersburg is open the track up. We'll see if anybody takes to it. Last question for James Hinchcliffe. Other than get to a new team, other than sign a new deal, other than link up with Sam Schmidt, what was the best part of your offseason? Anything particularly cool you did?
I took a couple vacations, which were nice. I did a lot of scuba diving, which was probably the highlight. Did some diving down in the Caribbean, some diving in Australia. So that's my other passion, man. So I was happy to get 10 or 12 dives under my belt.
Pretty cool. Before you know it, Spider will be making scuba suits too.
Oh, Scuba Pro already decks me out in all my
There you
scuba
go.
gear, so we're good.
All right, James, I appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
James Hinchcliffe, of course, car number 5, Aero, Lucas Oil, and Spider, his personal sponsor, are all going to be on board this year with Sam Schmidt.
Well, they have been working on the track. The IndyCar Series has had the big sweepers out, and they are saying that they are going to go green shortly. Now, what that actually means overall, right now in the area of the pits that we can see from our Firestone studio, there are no IndyCars out there. And so I think a lot of decisions have all been made. But then if they open the track, maybe the decisions change once again. What we do know is this is the very first event of the 2015 IndyCar Series for the Verizon IndyCars. And the same thing happened 1 year ago. It started right here. And Mark Janes is able to take us through the 2014 season.
The IndyCar Media Department recap of the Firestone Grand Prix of St. Petersburg said Will Power made a statement in the opening race that will resound throughout the season. My, how prophetic. His win at St. Pete was his third straight, dating back to the end of 2013. At Long Beach, Power grabbed P2 and led the points going into Barber Motorsports Park. Ryan Hunter-Reay was a repeat winner there and closed within 18 points of Power heading into a busy month of May at Indy. Simon Pagenaud won the first ever Grand Prix of Indy while Hunter-Reay finished second. Power's 8th place finish meant that the trio would be separated by just 6 points heading into the Indianapolis 500, where 100 points would be up for grabs. The 98th running of the Indianapolis 500 produced 34 lead changes among 11 drivers, capped off by a memorable duel between Hunter-Reay and Helio Castroneves, a duel won by Ryan Hunter-Reay.
It hasn't sunk in. I'm still so on the edge of my seat from battling out with Helio and Marco. We all raced each other clean. It was tight racing, but I didn't know what it took there at the end. I just went on instinct and made it happen.
He would also leave Indianapolis as the points leader. The duel in Detroit was dominated by Chevy and Team Penske. Power and Castroneves each picking up wins. The 500 champ had a disappointing weekend, so Helio moved to 19 behind his teammate, while Hunter-Reay tumbled to third. At Texas, Power overcame a drive-through penalty and capitalized on a late race stop for fuel and tires to grab second. His lead stood at 39 points over Castroneves.
What a great call at the end there. You know, we were 6, so let's get tires. Yeah, we were catching those guys like anything anyway. But, yeah, I've never had so much fun. That was more fun than Fontana, actually, except I didn't get the bloody win. But, yeah, great day.
Neither Helio nor Power enjoyed much success at Houston, and after the doubleheader weekend, Power led by 39 points, with Hunter-Reay 41 back and Pagenaud 59 behind. Pocono was the site of the fastest 500-mile race in history. Power was ordered to serve another drive-through penalty, one of 5 on the season, for blocking his teammate and fellow title contender. A second-place finish for Helio put the pair in a tie for the title.
Tell me about your afternoon there. Second place, you are tied for the points now.
Yeah. Wow. That's even better news. I didn't know that. But, I mean, what else can I say? You know, I have a beautiful Adriana here and my beautiful daughter. So, and this great fan that stick around here. So it's awesome. And this is great news, to be honest. And it was a tough race. You got to be really patient, and that's what we did.
At Iowa, Hunter-Reay was buoyed by a late race stop for tires and fuel. He stole the win from Tony Kanaan. Power finished 14th, Helio 8th, meaning Castroneves now led the title chase. Serviceable weekends during the doubleheader at Toronto for both Castroneves and Power meant little to no change in points. At Mid-Ohio, Scott Dixon defied the odds, moving from last to first for his 5th win at Lexington, Ohio. Will Power finished 6th, while throttle issues dropped Helio 4 laps down to the start. Power grabbed the points lead by 4, while Hunter-Reay and Pagenaud were in a dead heat for 3rd. Milwaukee solidified Power as the man to beat. He led 229 laps. Helio finished 11th, so Power's lead ballooned to 39, with Pagenaud moving to 3rd. A 21st place finish by Hunter-Reay all but eliminated him from contention.
Struggles were the order of the weekend for both Power and Elio at Sonoma. Castro Neves involved in 2 separate incidents. Power had issues of his own. He would rebound to finish 10th, but Elio would limp home in 18th. Going into the finale at Fontana, it came down to the Penske teammates, with Will Power leading by 51 points, while 100 points total were up for grabs. Power had thrown away the title at Fontana in 2012, but won the finale in 2013. Elio had 2 poles and 2 top 5s on his resume there. Tony Kanaan would lead the last 53 laps for the win. Will Power would finish 9th and mercifully silence the whispers of those who believed he couldn't handle the pressure of a championship chase.
I'm just speechless, man. I'm just speechless. I don't know what to say. That was a mega season, mega.
For Elio, a 14th place finish cost him the championship by just 62 points.
25-year anniversary to close up the year like this. I want to thank them for all the support. Chip, Mike Hall, and all the guys, man. I mean, what a great feeling. What a great way to finish the championship.
And the quest for him continues. Scott Dixon, with a strong second half of the season, was 3rd in points, followed by Juan Montoya and Simon Pagenaud. Going into 2015, Roger Penske returns 4 of the top 5 in points from 2014, including the champion, Will Power. So, this season is yet to open. We've seen our first practice. We're waiting for our second. And here's the word now. The green flag is out there. They're going to run the session essentially for an hour until 35 after the next hour. And we have yet to see if anybody's going to take the bait on that. At this moment, looking up and down the pit lane where we can see, it doesn't appear that anybody has started to push equipment out to that area, but, of course, we'll see what happens. But we can go back over the other side of the track. Here is Dave first.
And we're here with Charlie Kimball just discussing whether or not anyone's going to come over. And Tony Kanaan is giving me this nasty look. But here's an update on Kanaan. I'm sorry, Charlie, not to take away from your time here. But TK is over here in jeans, tennis shoes, a jacket, a golf shirt, a team jacket, of course, and a golf shirt. If I had $100 right now, I would bet there's no chance Tony Kanaan is going to be on the track here this afternoon. He's shaking his head. Yeah, you're right. What do you think, Charlie?
Well, I think one of the big challenges, especially the first race of the introduction of new bodywork, there's not a plethora of spares floating around the paddock. So everyone's being fairly circumspect with their mileage and trying to be intelligent. When it's wet and there is 0% chance of precipitation over Saturday and Sunday, it's probably not the most smart thing, most intelligent thing to go out and put some laps in. And that was as many Scrabble 5-letter words or 50-point words as possible in one segment.
Spoken like a true no-cal guy. That was good.
Except I'm from Southern California, but that's close.
But you're a Stanford fan.
I am a Stanford fan, and I've since found out, since I last talked to you, Dave, that Stanford did not make the NCAA tournament. They made the NIT tournament.
That's right. Well, that's okay. Stanford's not exactly known for its basketball. So.
Yeah, but they've been pretty good at producing football players the last couple of years, and they're all right.
Which makes you a Colts fan, I believe. You're talking about maybe the quarterback there of Andrew Luck. So.
Well, and receiver, tight end Kobe Fleener, and wide receiver Griff Whalen as well. They all came out of Stanford as well, and so it's it's pretty cool. But honestly, it's just awesome to be back at a racetrack on a race weekend when laps. I mean, the open test things counted, but here it's when it really matters. It's when the fans, I was trying to go away after the first practice, and when did Fridays get so busy? The fans have come out, and they're just awesome, and it's great to see all the IndyCar fans, everyone who's a fan of the Verizon IndyCar Series, and all the Chevy fans out, coming and seeing what the aero kits are all about, seeing how they look different than the other guys, and seeing what it's making a difference on the racetrack.
Well, I'll tell you, that 7-month off season really aided everyone. So it was good to see some cars back on the track this afternoon.
Yeah, it's, what do they say, distance makes the heart grow fonder, and 7 months worth of distance makes you really want to get in a race car.
We all fell in love one more time, I think.
Yeah, no, it was a good morning, a good session. I was impressed by the amount of grip. I think a lot of the other series that are running, the Indy Lights, the Pirelli World Challenge, cleaned up the track and put a fair bit of rubber down. Even last night, I happened to get caught in the rain shower last night walking back to the hotel, so I showed up back at the hotel, my wife and I both looking like drowned rats. So it's probably my fault it's raining again today.
Well, of course. It's always the guy's fault, so.
Yeah, that's true. I'm married 6 months, and I'm learning that yes, dear, and it's my fault, I'm sorry, honey, are the best ways out of the doghouse.
Well, if you can just tell Graham Rahal that, because this is all stuff he's just now figuring out, as he told us earlier here on the radio broadcast.
Yeah, he will learn quickly. I think there are a couple of guys in the paddock. In fact, the minister from my wedding, I'm going to go ahead and throw him under the bus because he's got to be pretty close. I mean, I know Ed's been leaning on him for a while now. Ed was leaning on me. I pulled the trigger. Ed's been leaning on James for a while now. So, wow. Hinch, if you're listening, you're next.
There you go. This interview quickly deteriorated into something else, but anyway.
Yeah, no, let's talk racing a little bit.
When it dries up.
Exactly. I think, as I said, you'll see a lot of guys just being smart and circumspect with the weather today. But, I was pretty happy with the 83 Novolog Flex Pen car this morning. We've got
8th quick in that first section.
Yeah, in the top 10. It was nice to see a couple Ganassi cars and some inside the top 10, and then some pretty solid showing from the bow tie there. And hopefully we have a little in our pocket for the next couple of days.
Great to see you again, my friend.
It's good to be seen at a racetrack.
That's right. And go tell Tony Kanaan he can probably leave for the day. He's good to go. So.
Well, and maybe get a shave in.
Something. Great to see Charlie Kimball. To Jake Query here at St. Pete.
Another guy who has a new team this year is that of Simon Pagenaud, who comes over and drives for the captain now in Roger Penske. And Pagenaud has on the Penske truck rental fire suit. It's a good look for you. I'm not going to lie to you, Simon. It always takes a race or two to get used to seeing guys that jump over, but obviously you're in a really good car now. Great situation, and it was well earned. Take me through the offseason in landing that job with Roger Penske.
Thanks, Jake. Things are going really well. It's been a pleasure to join Team Penske, and I've been welcomed with open arms, and it's been an incredible transition. So far, so good. The transition has been very easy. It's been easy to come in with Ben Bretzman, my engineer. And the car is fast. All 4 cars are really fast. We have great teammates I can lean on. And things went pretty well this morning. So far, so good. It's going to take a little bit of time, like you said. We need that transition phase. It's a new group on the 22 side, complete new crew. And we need to get to know all of each other. It's going to take a little bit of time to make that chemistry going well for us.
2 of your teammates have won a championship. One on multiple Indianapolis 500s. Obviously, they're competitors, but they're also experienced competitors. Where do you find the balance between competing against one another, but at the same time sharing and being teammates?
Well, you have to share. We both understand we're racing for Team Penske, and if a Team Penske car win, we all win. So that's the main word. That's how it was explained to me when I signed the contract, and I'm happy. I'm happy about it. I think I have just as many chances as Will or Elio or Ran to win the championship, and that doesn't happen in every teams. We all have the exact same equipment. It's great. We can push each other. We all have different driving styles, different approach, and we can push each other to make ourselves even better. Even all of us can get better.
We are right now, obviously, at the end of March, the beginning of the season. If you had to guess, where will we be on the calendar when you finally feel like you have a firm understanding as to what this car can do with these aero kits and what can be changed over the course of a weekend with them?
Well, Jake, it evolves every weekend. It evolves every year. I don't think we're anywhere close to where we're going to be next year at this time of the year. So, we're scratching the surface so far. We haven't had much testing, which is the regulation. So we're still trying to understand how it functions and how to make the tires work well with it. So I would say next year is going to be a lot faster.
Which part of the driving discipline is now most challenged with these aero kits? Which part of being a driver do you feel now has to be more fine-tuned than, say, a year ago?
It's an interesting question. I don't know, quite honestly. I think physical challenge is bigger. You have to make sure you're even more trained than before. So IndyCar is probably the most challenging physically, racing all around the world. So that's one aspect. Mentally, you're going to have to be on top of your game because the cars are faster. You're braking in the shorter braking zones, so you have to be on your toes the whole time.
Last question for you, Simon Pagenaud. The reality is in racing, Roger Penske and driving for him is seen as a destination point. It is seen as the place where you want to ascend to the point where Roger Penske signs you on. At what moment did you stop and think to yourself, it happened for me, I'm here now?
Well, the day it was announced was really a special day in my career, in my life. It was, like you said, it was a dream for me and an achievement in my career. So now it's just bonus, just pleasure, and I look forward to doing a great job for Roger and Team Cindric, of course, and everybody at Team Penske. You know, it's a big family here, and really, really proud to be part of it.
I know Chevrolet's excited about the kits that they brought for you guys. We wish you the best of luck in piloting it this year.
Thanks, Jake.
Simon Pagino, guys, of course, Penske truck rental, the fire suit he's wearing. Driving now for the captain, Roger Penske, here in St. Petersburg, Paul.
Yeah, good-looking yellow and white machine that he drives for Roger Penske as well. And you heard, Mark, he's already got the Penske lecture. You know, one of our cars wins, that's it. We all win. You know, let's not be nuts out there. Let's just lay down points and win races.
Yeah, we've heard Roger allude to the fact that, you know, when he has a situation where a couple of his drivers are running, you know, nose to tail or side by side toward the last 25, 30 laps of the last fuel stint. Roger says, of course, both guys have the ability to go for the win, but I can't count the number of times he said the last thing we want is for them to take each other out.
It's interesting what they have done here. The green flag flies at the starter stand. The clock is counting in this practice session and showing it with, about 48 minutes to go in the session. But we don't have a car in the pits at all. So what race control has done, and I think it's pretty creative thinking here, they've got the trucks out, the sweepers, and they're still working the track as much as they can, and they're going to stay out there, green flag, unless, of course, a car shows up in the pits, and then they'll pull the sweepers off, and everything will be fine. So they've overlapped that process.
Yeah, they might be digging a hole and throwing the dirt back in a bit, Paul, because that rain is starting to pick up again.
Yeah, it's going from just being a rain to really pouring right now. So we're going to stay here. We're going to see what happens with all of it. We've got other people yet to talk to, and that's the advantage when you have a situation like this. We get to interview more people and talk to more people and get great conversations. Like Graham Rahal is going to need an awful lot of advice on his marriage plans and everything. That I don't care, do anything you want is not the world's greatest answer. We'll be back with more from St. Petersburg in a moment.
If there's one thing Firestone's learned over its 100 years in racing, it's that if you don't keep moving forward, you're going to get left behind. So even though Firestone has more Indy 500 wins than any other tire on the planet, we're always more concerned with what we've done for you lately. That's why we're constantly trying to make our tires stronger, last longer, and handle better than ever. And we bring that same commitment to every tire we make, whether it's for the racetrack or for the open road. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
Back at St. Petersburg, I'm Paul Page. Mark James is alongside. We're in the Firestone studio. And Dave First has got some interesting conversation to be held. Dave?
Indeed. Let's talk some aero kits. Steve Erickson is the Vice President and COO of HPD, Honda Performance Development. And we saw the Chevy unveiling of their aero kits. You guys had yours a couple of weeks ago, and everybody oohed and ahed. And it was much different philosophy than what the Chevy guys had. Kind of go back to day one when you had this opportunity to put together whatever you wanted to. The slate literally was clean. What was the process like?
Well, we built upon the process that we've been using to make race cars for years now, and so we have a pretty polished process that we just put into place on the IndyCar side as well. And I think a lot of the learning that we've had from doing those race cars got applied to this IndyCar design. Particularly this car is interesting because the front wheels are, truly open wheel, and the back wheels are really kind of closed in, somewhat like a sports car. So you've got a little different ethos going on in those front and back of the car. Our design focus was first and foremost to make the very best Indy 500 winning chassis we could, and everything else that we did to the chassis could not compromise that. So, when we started to add downforce and things for the road courses and street courses, those were never going to go against what we had to do for the Indy 500.
That's interesting right there, because that speaks to your emphasis on the Indianapolis 500, does it not?
Absolutely. It's the most important race.
Yeah. So, really what you've done is kind of create an oval package that you can add bits and pieces and wings and winglets to be successful on the road and street course.
That's right. And that's one of the neat things about the series is it's got so many different types of courses, and you've got to make this kit be compatible at all of them. And that was a very fun exercise. And then, of course, you have to meet all the safety standards along the way as well. So there's a lot of cross-checking that you've met the safety standards even as you're adding performance.
The numbers are staggering. Some 200 parts. They got 1 million almost possibilities at this thing. And you really kind of leave it in the engineers' hands to see how they can use whatever you guys give them to see how well they can do it.
Yeah, what we do is we try to give the teams a good starting point to say, okay, for this race at St. Pete, this is what we're going to want to have the car look like as a starting point, and then the engineers can go from there.
Just the possibilities, again, you go back to a clean slate. You can go in any direction, in theory. That just must have been really thrilling for the company.
Yeah, and then what's really pleasing is to see that how different the cars from ourselves and our competitor are, because that really was one of the other goals, was to try to differentiate between the brands, and I think it's certainly done that.
What's next? What did you think of the first practice here today?
I think it was great first outing. Obviously, it's early days for everybody with the kits. They haven't had them that long, getting to know the kits and what they need and how to set up the car to get the most out of them. So, we're making good progress, and it's pretty rapid rate of improvement.
No doubt about it, and this isn't a criticism at all, but everyone's out there kind of taking it easy right now, making sure that their car is good to go on race day. Yep. There's not a lot of backups, parts and whatnot yet anyway. So when is the next step as far as that comes for you guys?
As far as
having enough backups or what?
Oh, well, we're churning out parts consistently, and there's a certain rate of throughput that you can get with the number of tools that are out there, and it's going to keep going and going until we've satisfied the demand.
You talked about the importance of the Indianapolis 500. I'm assuming that first oval test at Indy is going to be key for you guys to see how everything plays out.
Yeah, we're excited to finally take the production version of the kit and get it out there. We've been testing prototypes for so long. Now to actually have the production parts out there is going to be fun to see.
And a lot of this is all computerized. It's all theory right now for you guys, isn't it?
A lot of the development process is done in the virtual world, but then you take that process, you make prototypes of it, and you test it in the real world to make sure there's correlation between what you predicted and what it actually achieves.
Now, what can you do about the weather?
Yeah, that's the kind of prediction I can't make.
Put that on a computer, why don't you?
Exactly.
Right. Great to talk to you.
All right, thanks for
good luck this weekend. Steve Erickson, the Vice President and COO of HPD, Honda Performance Development. These guys have worked tirelessly to put together an aero package for the Honda guys, and so far so good. Everyone has enjoyed it, really, the fans and drivers alike, Paul Page.
Yeah, and you know what? He made a really good point, and that is that it's been about 2.5 weeks that they have actually had the kits. The kits for both Chevrolet and for Honda arrived midweek just before the mandatory test at Barber. And so they literally had to put them together right then, in that day that they arrived, and get them loaded on the trucks to get them to Barber in time. So the time with these kits has been particularly short. Thank goodness, though, they are both so well engineered that putting them together didn't take all that much to actually get them assembled. It might have been a little shoving and sawing in a couple of places, but generally, when I watched them putting them together, the thing just snapped right together. It looked good, and off they go.
What I think is cool is the passion and enthusiasm. We heard from the folks from Chevrolet earlier during our first practice session, and the passion and enthusiasm they expressed at being faced with this challenge, Paul. I mean, they have a deep appreciation and a tremendous love for open-wheel racing and the Verizon IndyCar Series. Chevrolet is thrilled to be back. I think Honda is thrilled to have the competition. That's what they've wanted for so very long. But I got to believe those engineers and all the people involved in the R&D, it had to be like Christmas when the announcement was made that we were going in this direction, and they were faced with the challenges. But the approaches and the outcome, vastly different, which again speaks to what we're moving toward. And I thought those comments from Steve were very, very interesting from the standpoint that the sole focus is the 16th in Georgetown in late May, and they're building everything else they do throughout the rest of the season around that.
And, of course, because of the fact that these kits are just in and just completed, which was by itself an incredible engineering job to actually come up with a concept, design it, execute it, get it to the teams, get them assembled. Well, as a result of that, though, there are not a whole lot of spares back there.
Sure.
Maybe everybody has maybe a rear wing assembly, but beyond that, it's pretty sparse. So that's part of what we're seeing right now. Is maybe in other days with more parts, you might have gone out and said, yeah, let me give this one a shot and see what it does in the wet. But I think right now what you're seeing for the most part, don't you think, is that why risk it? Why? Because here's your option. If you can't get the car together with the 2015 aero kit, then you are going to have to mount the 2014 aero kit. And obviously then you're really out to lunch. Well, the session has now ended. They've just shown the checkered flag to an empty straightaway and empty pits. And thank goodness we've got a couple of fans that have stayed around. Actually, quite a few. You got to give race fans credit. They're all over the place, and they're there and on top of it. So we're done with the session. Who was calling from the pits? We have something there?
Yeah, Jake's down here actually with Larry Foyt, who, of course, two-car team, exciting team. Takuma Sato and one of the real exciting guys last year, up-and-coming Jack Hawksworth, who's going to be piloting that number 41. And I'll tell you what, Larry, there are a couple of things in racing that just always seem to be the norm. Opening in St. Petersburg, A.J. Foyt and the checkered flag when he was at Indianapolis, and ABC Supply. They are always around. They've been a great sponsor. I believe one of the longest running in the series. But I know you got to be happy to have them on board, and you guys have a good thing going here.
Well, unbelievable. I think this is our 10th year together with ABC Supply that we're celebrating our 10th anniversary. So what a partnership. And, yeah, these red, white, and blue cars, I love them. Awesome that we have two of them now. And so far, St. Pete, we had sat on the pole here last year with Takuma, so we're excited. And actually today, first practice, Jack was pretty quick. I think he was 6, and Takuma was 12. So we feel like we're right there and just making some adjustments and looking forward to get back out on track.
Let's talk about Jack Hawksworth and just what about him really excites you in getting him in your stable.
Well, I tell you, the kid's obviously got a lot of talent. He opened a lot of eyes last year, and we saw that. That's one of the reasons we wanted to go after him. And I tell you what, we love his focus. He's actually relocated down close to the shop in Texas, and he goes and works out in the morning, then he comes to the shop and bothers us in the afternoon and goes back and works out. So he's really focused, appreciative of the opportunity, and has a lot of talent. So we're looking forward to some big things out of him.
How important is it from a chemistry standpoint for a driver to be in the shop and see the work that his guys are doing? Because it's a team sport. I think people lose sight of that it's a team sport. But to know the effort these guys are putting in and then maybe just have that one decision that you have to make over the course of a weekend to think about what goes into it.
Absolutely. I mean, that's, what I like about Jack, too. He thinks about racing 24/7. That's what he cares about, and he spent a lot of time. He's got a young engineer in Raul Prados that's been grooming under Don Halliday, and together they're kind of our young gun team, I call them, and they just come talk about racing all the time, and as you can see, it's paying off. And then we've kind of got our veteran team with Takuma and Don that's helping keep them in line. So I think it's going to be a good combination. I mean, my goodness, you see how tough the IndyCar field is. I don't think there's an argument that there's a tougher field in motorsports right now. I mean, from Penske, Ganassi, all these great teams that are here, and Honda competing against Chevy. It's a fun season. It's tough. It's a tough season. I mean, already it was a long off season, but we're already putting in some incredibly long hours, and the guys are really working hard to get this aero kit figured out.
And you've got, if I'm correct, a shop in Indy as well, where people are going to get a chance, to also get a look at, see the new aero kits, see the cars. Tell me about what you've got going on in the northern side of things.
We do. Well, AJ's always said Indy's his home away from home, outside of Texas, and we've always wanted to have a presence there if the right opportunity came up. So we found that building in Speedway that AJ thought was a great investment opportunity.
Right there up Main Street, right?
Exactly, right in Main Street. We're right across from Delara. So right now, we haven't. It's not completely outfitted, but it's a great space that while we're up, probably after Indy, before we go to Detroit, we'll work out of there up on the northern swing between Iowa, Pocono. We'll work out of there. Someday, could be a full-time race shop, but right now we're still based out of Texas. But it's a great building that we'll have a place to work out when we're on the road.
Lastly, I know you'll probably get asked this a lot, but how's AJ doing, and when can we expect to see him trackside?
Yeah, no, doing much better. Still got a little ways to go, but AJ, he's a fighter, and he's always, whenever he's gotten hurt, he sets a goal for himself, and a lot of times that goal's been Indy. It was on some of his worst crashes. His goal was always make it back for Indy, and And it's no different this time. I mean, that's what he said. He said, I'm just trying to get ready to get back to Indianapolis, and that's all he cares about right now.
Always appreciate the conversation. Look forward to talking to you over the course of the year.
Hey, thanks a lot. See you soon.
All right, that's Larry Foyt again. AJ Foyt Racing and ABC Supply on board for the 14 of Takuma Sato, the 41 of Jack Hawksworth. And, Paul, these are two guys that, no doubt about it, can bend the wheel of a race car, and I think we'll probably see them in some Firestone Fast 6 over the course of this season.
Without question, a group to watch right there. And this radio network, we certainly wish A.J. Foyt the best and hope that he does come back as soon as possible. But somehow, I don't think A.J. got that message. The last time I saw his relationship with a laptop computer, the computer was sliding down the pits at Indy, wasn't it? With pieces going everywhere. So maybe somebody will tell A.J. about that. They've done some schedule changes to help the fans here at the track, and Mark James, you're up to date on that.
Yep, to help those hardy souls who stuck around through this inclement weather, from 5 to 5:30 on autograph session, the drivers will be in front of their transporters. Again, just getting underway, drivers will be in front of their transporters for an autograph session. That is in addition to the regularly scheduled autograph session set for tomorrow. So a thank you to the fans for sticking around today.
So here's what we look forward to when we start up again tomorrow on Saturday, the 28th of March. The lights practice will begin at 9:30 in the morning, and then the IndyCar practice at 12:30 the afternoon. These are Eastern times. And then the lights race itself on the air with Mark James and the gang at 2:25 in the afternoon, and then at 4:10 Saturday afternoon, it's IndyCar qualifying. And so the weather, Mark James is also the weatherman on this, and he said everything's cool. We're going clean through the weekend, and it's going to be fun. So on behalf of all of us here, I'm Paul Page. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.
IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.
A.J. Foyt down the main straightaway. The checkered flag is out. A.J.'s hand in the air. He is the winner. A.J. Foyt at Indianapolis has won his fourth 500-mile race. A.J. Foyt, our winner. The flag will fly now for Tom Sneva and then for Al Unser. We will be talking with all of these drivers in just a moment.
And we await A.J. Foyt along with a host of others, including Tony Holman, who is cheering as loudly as the crowd. We've seen what has never been seen before, beginning with a woman driving in the field in the morning and A.J. finishing 4 up front at Indianapolis. Headed into victory lane now, A.J. Foyt in the gleaming Gilmore 14 Coyote, the Gilmore Racing Team home, and he wins again.
And there's the checkered flag for Mark Donahue, winner of the 1972 Indianapolis 500-mile race.
Oh my goodness, we have 7, 8, 10 cars in a pack headed for one Jerry.
Well, you talk about the crowd getting on their feet. They do. So far, so good. They are nose to tail, a little bit of room. There's about an 8-car pack in front of Gary Lee right now.
Yeah, and in that pack, second place and third place. Little Al has gotten around Jack Villeneuve. He's back up to second, and now 2 cars separate second and third. Mr. Excitement is that youngster, that second-generation driver. We're impressed with Jack Villeneuve, but right now he's dropped to third. And there's Al Unser Jr., and then Bobby Rahal. Jack Villeneuve goes on the outside. He goes high. You can't go too wide in the turns. They're doing it today.
They sure are coming through 4. Now they go single file. Maybe they got a little scared last time. Who knows? But going through 4 this time, everybody single. They come toward the main straightaway and Bob Jenkins.
That was just a breathtaking moment.
This is IndyCar Radio on the IMS Radio Network.